Entertainment begins with a journey. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426, The Other Shore Gallery. At home, Yukai sat in front of his computer. He hadn't been this formal for a long time since he stopped working. When he wrote a book, he just wrote casually. The ideas in his mind were as broad as the Yangtze River, and there was no blockage at all. Everything went smoothly. But choosing an assistant was different. Scratching his hair, Yukai looked at the message he had typed on Weibo but hadn't posted yet. Looking for an assistant to help me with some work matters. The requirements are as follows. 1. Be fully responsible for all copyright operations and external commercial matters under my name. 2. Organize business cooperation sent from various channels. 3. Record and remind me of some important matters. 4. Have a comprehensive understanding of the film and television and cultural industries. Be reliable, have strong coordination skills, be good at communication, and understand some legal knowledge. So formal. But Yukai didn't want to trouble others. It was too troublesome to deliberately post a message on the recruitment platform just to recruit an assistant. He simply posted it on his Weibo. Anyway, there were quite a lot of people following him. Published. 10 minutes later, the email address that Yukai had just applied for started ringing. Emails would arrive periodically. Yukai clicked on them. Most were serious resumes, but some people were using the same email address to chat with him or send him risque photos. The tragedy of being handsome. China has many well-known authors, many young, including those in their 20s and 30s, but Yukai had never heard of any other author encountering such frenzied fans as himself. Fan culture has become popular in recent years, and celebrities in every field have their share of NT fans. Yukai's fame and good looks have earned him a following comparable to some of the younger idols. Having appeared on several variety shows, Yukai certainly had exposure. Yukai had initially planned to delete the emails whose names looked off, then slowly review each of the resumes, but the more he deleted, the more messages piled up. Within a short time of posting on Weibo, the number of emails had surpassed 500. So many people. A headache gripped Yukai. If he could use his popularity to land a TV series, would the producers agree to his offer of 30 million yuan? Given the current climate in TV dramas, it was hard to say. Sorting through these emails was becoming increasingly irritating. It wasn't that the people weren't talented, but the number of emails kept increasing with each update, seemingly endless. It was giving him a headache. He pushed his keyboard forward. He'd look at it tomorrow, then call Sun Shang to review it. There were many emails and Weibo messages asking him to start a live stream, so Yukai clicked on the live streaming software he needed to update. He hadn't properly live streamed in Iceland, but he had posted a ton of vlogs. It was fine on the ship in the Arctic, but the signal went away as soon as he left, so he didn't really get to broadcast anything. Today, he'd consider it a way to make amends for his fans. He was so kind. Where else could he find a writer who dotes on his fans so much? He'd created his Bilibili live streaming room in the Arctic. First, Yukai changed the name to just Return to China, playing a few games. The live streaming room was connected, and the camera still worked. He placed his profile picture in the bottom right corner of the room. At this moment, a message popped up in the lower right corner of the screen announcing the start of the live stream. Countless people rushed to click in, seeing the familiar gaming chair and walls in the live stream room. Is this going home? What happened to the live stream we promised to do in Iceland? Just a few vlogs and we're done. The Iceland vlogs are high quality, but I still prefer the 2 episodes from the Arctic. They have a subtle, artistic feel. I was truly moved when the aurora appeared. Woohoo. Take off. Take off, take off, take off. I can't believe a star like Yi Dada can even hike through the jungle. Have you seen the online variety show hosted by Teacher Wong? Ignore these comments. The most important thing for a live streamer is to ignore the barrage of comments in the live stream room. After all, there are so many of them, and no matter who's broadcasting, there will always be haters and trolls. Yukai was relatively lucky. There wasn't much to criticize about him. He transparently posted all his earnings on Weibo and donated them to charity. Occasionally, he'd glance at netizens' comments and realized his biggest negative was that he had a foreign girlfriend. What's the big deal? Yukai never understood what was so offensive about that. I'm marrying a foreign girl, not changing my nationality. Saoirse is not only beautiful and well-educated, but she also studied under an internationally renowned violin master. After graduation, no matter which orchestra she joins, she'll be eager to recruit. I'm bringing in outstanding talent for China, right? So what's the big deal? So it's best not to read the comments. No matter how positive you are, seeing unreasonable comments will be confusing. In the end, you'll be the one getting mad, while the haters will probably feel good hiding behind their computers. Hello everyone, long time no see. It's been almost 2 months since I last live streamed during my trip to the Arctic. This memory makes me realize how quickly time has flown, or maybe life in Iceland was so comfortable that netizens forgot about it. Yukai opened Steam and searched for a game. It's called The Other Shore Gallery, an independent game created by Wu Wenhan. Before leaving China, Yukai was in charge of the art design for the game, and after that, Wu Wenhan handed it over to other artists. Seeing this game released, Yukai felt a pang of regret. If he hadn't gone surfing, if no one had seen someone jump from the bridge in the first place, Wu Wenhan's grave would probably be 15 feet high. This game wouldn't have existed. Let's not play League of Legends today. This game was made by my friend. All the programming and levels were his own creation. He's quite talented. Let's see what kind of game he made. He knew the game script, but this was his first time actually playing The Other Shore Gallery. Knowing the script and playing the game are two different things, just like reading a novel and playing a game adapted from it. Even though you know the final content of the level, you still tirelessly experience the process of discovering it. Many netizens who enjoyed watching Yukai play League of Legends were frantically commenting, S11, why don't you go play the placement matches? Why are you always here, claiming to be number 1 in the national server? Isn't it just to make money? Let him make money, let him make money, play ranked matches, waiting to learn the skills. Brother Kai, play on the Korean server, let the Koreans see what it means to be the world's number 1 mid lane. Yukai didn't want to pay attention to these comments, but was amused by this sentence. What do you mean the number 1 mid lane? I just play games for fun, don't start a fight with me. If you want to learn skills, watch the live broadcasts of professional players. I just broadcast them for fun. See this thing? Yukai pointed his B station title with a mouse. It was a long introduction, but the place where Yukai pointed his mouse was written as number 1 in the outdoor zone. Chapter 427 The Other Shore Gallery 2. Famous author, renowned singer, songwriter. Compared to a long list of titles, the title of Outdoor Number 1 doesn't hold much attention, but Yukai likes it. He got his start as a live streamer, and he still vividly remembers the feeling of his first live stream in Ireland. Let's try this game first. If it's not fun, I'll try League of Legends. He opened the game, and a chubby, office-bound figure with round glasses appeared on the screen. The game's description revealed his name, Wu Bai, an ordinary office worker. The game's graphics were strikingly monotonous, or perhaps more desolate. While this style might be a bit awkward at first glance, Yukai found it perfectly suited to the game. After all, it was a niche title, and once he accepted its premise, he found it perfectly complemented the plot. However, the main issue is that the game didn't support the graphics quality Yukai needed to truly shine, so he had to resort to this. The game's protagonist woke up from his bed, fed his little rabbit, and then stood into his closet to choose clothes. His character's clothing selection habits were exactly the same as Wu Wenhan's, changing the color every day, but always wearing the same shirt style. Okay, we've changed our clothes and are ready to go to work, Yukai said. He controlled his character to go to the company. Wu Bai was a programmer, and the company was certainly a tech company. The receptionist, playing with her phone, said without even looking up, "Don't forget to clock in." The team members inside the company were also talking about their own things, paying no attention to Wu Bai as he passed by. Not far away, 2 male colleagues were discussing how to play a prank on Wu Bai for fun. His ruthless boss continued to exploit Wu Bai as usual. After a day's work, it was already late at night when he got off work. Such a realistic game. If Wu Bai's name was changed to mine, it wouldn't feel out of place at all. So sad. Is this the adult world? Yukai also took a deep breath. This game is so depressing. When I created the graphics, I followed Wu Wenhan's instructions to reflect Wu Bai's loneliness, but the overall feeling is still very loving. After falling asleep that night, the game character entered his own dream. The dream world was the same as reality, but everything seemed so eerie and strange. Human eyes in the tree stump, A statue covered in vines in the grass outside the community, a sink dripping with blood, and an indistinct white-haired female ghost. If I hadn't known some of the plot, Yukai wouldn't have been able to tell it was a female ghost. She didn't look scary. The overall tone of the game isn't horror, because it's not a horror game per se. It's a niche game Wu Wenhun uses to express himself, to show the daily life of someone with depression. However, the plot seems different from when I left. Did Wu Wenhun rewrite the script? After encountering a female ghost, Wu Bai, panicked, struggled to escape. He saw the only light in his dream and entered a shop. The owner said, "Welcome back to the other shore gallery." But this was clearly Wu Bai's first time there, so why would the gallery owner say welcome back? Before he could ask, a blinding light stole Wu Bai's view. He rose from his bed, realizing it was all just a dream. He was about to experience another day, different yet the same. Yukai paused. "How about we go play League of Legends?" he said to the people in the live stream. "Keep playing. You're quitting just when you thought it was getting interesting. Keep playing, let's just play League of Legends. This game is boring. The graphics look like something a primary school student drew. The plot is rubbish, a primary school student's drawing. If this were a comic, Yukai's face would definitely be covered in black lines. A primary school student's drawing. What the hell did you ask me to draw for this assignment? I'll draw you a Qingming Shang too, along the river during the Qingming festival, on a few megabytes of space, and you can actually fit it in there, right? Keep playing, you can watch it or not." At the end of the day, Wu Bai got off work at 2 o'clock, and sure enough, he had another dream. A slug monster in a tattered suit appeared in the game. Wu Bai recognized it as his boss at work. Wu Bai was truly miserable. He was exploited by his boss at work, and now, in his dreams, he was being hunted by the monster his boss had transformed into. Wu Bai remembered his mother's childhood advice: salt water could kill such monsters. So, Wu Bai used salt water to kill the monster, then continued walking down the street, entering the gallery again. This time, the owner didn't say anything. Instead, Wu Bai asked, "Have we met before?" The owner didn't directly answer Wu Bai's question, but instead instructed Yukai to place the memory fragment he obtained from killing the slug into a frame in the gallery. Yukai did as instructed, and a picture appeared in the frame on the wall. So that's how it works. Yukai finally understood. Wu Wenhun modified the game into something akin to a collection game. He had to collect memories and place them in a photo frame. Once he'd collected enough memories, like the one where his mother taught him to kill slugs with salt water, he'd complete the game. It looks like we need to collect 9 memory fragments in total, which doesn't seem like a lot. Let's see if we can complete the game in an hour, Yukai said. On the third day, Wu Bai went to work again. His boss was nitpicking, forcing Wu Bai to return to the office and redo his work, leaving him at the end of the day. He left the office, feeling hallucinatory despite not having slept. He encountered the white-haired female ghost he often saw in the hallway. Panicked, Wu Bai ran to the restroom, but the restroom was even scarier than the ghost. Convinced it was all an illusion, Wu Bai rushed home, desperately hoping everything would return to normal the next day. Half believing, he closed his eyes and went to sleep. When he woke up, he was still dreaming. Searching his home, he stumbled upon his medical diagnosis: Wu Bai, severe depression. Yukai searched his home for a long time, but couldn't find the next scene. So he walked out and headed towards the gallery. As expected, he saw a new memory fragment on his body. It was a memory of his home. He suddenly woke up, and everything felt normal again. He had indeed been dreaming. He rinsed his mouth at the sink, and when he went into the living room, he found his rabbit dead. Its cold body told Wu Bai that it was completely beyond saving. A thought floated over Wu Bai's head in the game: even you have left me. The game's handling was perfect. Having lost his pet, Wu Bai had no mood to stand in front of his closet and choose a shirt. Yukai simply clicked, and he was already dressed. The next scene showed Wu Bai burying the rabbit in the park. Perhaps because of the burial, Wu Bai's shirt was very dirty. At work, because he spent too much time dealing with the rabbit, his boss fired Wu Bai for being late. The comments were filled with criticism. Yukai thought back to the managers he'd met before. They all seemed to be like this. The first company's exploitation of new employees forced the ambitious Yukai to resign. Having lost his source of income, Yukai had no choice but to go to the second company. His outstanding abilities gave him strong business capabilities in such a small company, and he wasn't marginalized by his boss, But there were still people like Wu Bai in the company. It's 2:30 in the morning, and even with all my efforts, there are only 3 chapters left. Sorry. I'm in an internet cafe out of town now. The keyboard here is really terrible, similar to the internet cafe you encountered in XZ, and it's so hot. I'm going to find a place to get some fresh air. Chapter 428, Glorious. Fired, Wu Bai didn't take the elevator downstairs. Fearing his dirty clothes would once again be ostracized and ridiculed, he walked down the hallway floor by floor. Finally, he dropped the storage box he was holding, collapsed to the floor, and burst into tears. The game didn't describe Wu Bai's current state of mind, but Yukai knew that the pressure of life had long since crumbled within him, and his crying was merely a way to release that mental pressure. It wasn't that the pressure had vanished, it was that his mental defenses had collapsed. Yukai said, "This might be the most painful game I've ever played. While it's playable, it feels incredibly realistic and depressing at times. The person who made this game is a friend of mine, a depressed person. Perhaps many of my close friends know that I saved someone from jumping into a river to commit suicide during a surfing competition, and he made this game." After explaining this, Yukai continued playing. Wu Bai, overcome with grief, stood up, wiped his tears, and walked back home. The luggage he had brought from the company lay scattered on the floor, but he didn't pick it up, let alone put it away. He had taken his sleeping pills. There was only half of the medicine left in the bottle, and he guzzled it all down. Wu Bai woke up again, this time at the company. In his dream, Wu Bai wasn't sure if this was a dream or reality. A chat log popped up on his workstation computer like a ghost. "Wu Bai, let's break up." He didn't dare to face the chat log and hurriedly fled the scene. On the way, he was chased by a monster. Just as Wu Bai was about to be caught by the monster, a white-haired female ghost appeared and saved him. Before he could think, the scene changed and Wu Bai appeared at home. The picture became brighter, and his mother appeared in front of Wu Bai, cooking. The lighting in this picture was normal, as if this was the real reality. Seeing a scene so familiar to him, Yukai excitedly called out to the people in the live stream, "See this painting? I drew it. Wu Wenhong changed so many settings that I barely understand them anymore. But I'm posting this painting as is. Stop bashing me. This game demands this kind of painting style. Do I have to paint landscapes?" Comments echoed in the comments about Yukai's painting skills. Yukai clearly lost the composure he had at the start of the broadcast. He knew he shouldn't pay attention to the comments, but how could he resist? He stood up and ran to the living room. He quickly emerged with his painting hanging in the living room, the picture of a galloping horse. "Look here, I drew it. And look at these 2 lines of calligraphy. I wrote them. I'm not comparing myself to other artists. I'm asking those criticizing me here, can you write calligraphy like this? Or can you paint a painting that surpasses my level?" "Yes, Yukai suddenly stopped arguing, his mood brightening with their words of approval. He even wanted to give a thumbs up to those who said they could. "Can you just hold on? Let's go watch some games. It's depressing, but I think it's pretty good. I'm not advertising this game. It's up to you if you want to buy it after watching me play." The game continued, and the scene shifted to a hospital ward where Wu Bai's mother lay dying. Doctors tried to revive her, but couldn't save her. Devastated, Wu Bai walked to the gallery, where the white-haired ghost was also. The scenes began to overlap. This white-haired ghost that frightened Wu Bai turned out to be his mother. The conversation continued, and many people who had been watching the live stream carefully finally understood the plot. Wu Bai had actually committed suicide 2 years ago. After death, desperate people visit the Beyond Gallery. To help these despairing people regain hope, the gallery recreates their life's memories. Finding the glimmer of hope in life can lead to redemption. But over and over, Wu Bai failed. To save Wu Bai, his mother gave up her own possibility of reincarnation and forced her way into Wu Bai's world to save him. But since she was dead, she could only appear as a ghost. Wu Bai saw his mother again in the gallery, realizing he had lost his last chance and was completely lost. After some reflection, Wu Bai gave up on the possibility of reincarnation, hoping to be with his mother forever in his dreams. After a period of darkness, the game screen cleared. Wu Bai awoke and a text message from his mother appeared on his phone. "I went grocery shopping. You came home late last night, so I didn't wake you. There's food on the table." Leaving the bedroom, he saw the still warm food on the table, and a lively little rabbit appeared before him. The game was over. Yukai was stunned. Is this the end? 10% off the game ending? Is it because I didn't collect all the memories that I reached the fake ending? Has anyone who has played this game before told me how to complete it? Sure enough, someone had. Playing again, Yukai collected all the memories with the guidance of the commentary, finally reaching the normal ending. In this ending, Wu Bai is unaware of the white-haired ghost's identity, yet he finds redemption. While he still endures the world's indifference and pain, there are always those in life who lend a helping hand, reminding him that he's not alone. The scene shifts to Wu Bai rising from the bed he's been in for 2 years. A girl sits beside the bed, and Yukai remembers who she is, the girl who wore pigtails next to Wu Bai's workstation at the company. When Wu Bai was fired, she had said to him, "Are you okay? Do you want me to come check on you tonight?" Perhaps it was this remark that led her to discover Wu Bai, heavily intoxicated and taking sleeping pills, and to take him to the hospital. In this ending, Wu Bai still loses his mother and his little rabbit, and faces the cold stares, ridicule, and bullying of others, but now he's determined to face his new life with a positive attitude. Yukai's heart warmed when he saw the girl holding Wu Bai's hand in the image, sitting beside the bed. Obviously, the previous ending was better, but I prefer this one. Even though there are a lot of disappointments, this is real life. And Wu Bai, a single guy, actually has someone who likes him and has a girlfriend. This game conveys a concept, the very message Wu Wenhun wants to convey. Life isn't as sad as we imagine, is it? Yukai sighed and said, "This is a game made by someone with depression. Perhaps I'm not qualified to interpret it. You know, I suffered from anxiety for a while." He closed the game, revealing his computer desktop. Yukai sat cross-legged on a gaming chair, chatting with his fans. "Before becoming a travel blogger, I held 2 jobs. The first was too stressful, so I quit. I didn't expect the second job to be even more stressful. The pressure from each job was different. The first was actually self-imposed. I always felt like my colleagues weren't paying attention to me, and my boss wouldn't give me guidance. They just pointed out my mistakes and threw all sorts of documents at me that were theirs. I had just graduated at the time, and I couldn't stand that kind of bullying, so I quit. Later, I realized that this is the reality. Work is different from school. Your boss may be one level higher than you, but they're not your teachers or seniors, let alone your dean. They have no obligation to tell you how to live your life." "Brother Yi, that's a good point. If I had seen you say that earlier, I wouldn't have changed 3 jobs in a year. I feel the same way now, a year-old engineering graduate passing by. Let me talk about my second job. It taught me a lot and helped me transition from school to the real world. In real life, there's no such thing as pure love, it's all about the basics of life. I broke up with my ex-girlfriend around that time. I wasn't making any money, and the monthly income was barely enough for my own expenses and my car loan. The apartment we lived in was pretty nice, not your typical studio apartment. Rent in Chengdu wasn't as expensive as in Beijing, Shanghai, or Guangzhou, so it wasn't that bad. I was incredibly anxious back then. I couldn't sleep at night, and I couldn't sleep during the day. Day and night, I was either editing photos or checking orders, calculating how much I could make in a month. I advise everyone not to work in post-production photography. To make money in this industry, you have to be your own boss. You'll never make money working for someone else." He glanced at the comments floating across his computer. He didn't know if the housing management had blocked some people, but the comments seemed much cleaner now. At least there weren't any trolls deliberately looking for trouble. Thinking of those people who said they could, Yukai felt that his previous behavior was quite incompetent. Why would he argue with someone who didn't even understand basic aesthetics? Asking them to give up their identity as haters and become fans of Yukai would be an insult to themselves, right? "So you'd better go all out to hate me, and don't be my fan. I'm a writer, can you tell me about your experience in writing Harry Potter? Then Brother Yi, what was the thing that touched you the most after you quit your job to travel?" Congratulations to Yukai on the global sales of his new book Harry Potter, which has exceeded 10 million copies. Harry Potter experience? I don't have much experience. When I was in Ireland, I saw the library of Trinity College and I wanted to write a book about the library and the story of a medieval college, so Harry Potter came to my mind. The deepest feeling. Yukai thought for a moment and said with a smile, "You suddenly asked me this, and I can't remember what I felt the deepest. Let me show you a video." Yukai opened his B station space on the computer and found the second vlog of the Arctic chapter. The progress bar is pulled to the end. Several days of heavy rain have turned the Arctic into rainy season. Even when I fall asleep, the scene of rain will still appear in my mind. On a night without rain, all of us stood on the deck to enjoy the rare fresh air. The bright light of the stars sprinkled on the icebergs and the Arctic Ocean. You will feel that the world is unusually quiet. I turned on the live broadcast and stood alone on the deck immersed in this world. Voiceover. It's hail. Go back to the cabin quickly. But the sky was not good. It didn't even give us a brief clear sky. Hail fell in the Arctic Ocean. I wanted to go back to the cabin, but the people in the live broadcast room kept asking me to turn back. When I turned back, I saw the most beautiful scenery I have ever seen in my life. At this moment, the BGM also reached its climax. It was composed by Yukai. Floating Light, The History. Chapter 429 Assistant Finalized. The next morning, Yukai received a call from Sun Xiang. Strangers were not allowed in the complex, so Sun Xiang had to either be accompanied by Yukai or have security guards call him before entering. This was the most important aspect of living in this complex that Yukai valued. He didn't have to worry about being secretly photographed at any time. 15 minutes later, Sun Xiang rang the doorbell. Yukai yawned and went to open the door, saying to Sun Xiang standing outside, "Don't you know my password?" "I forgot," Sun Xiang said casually. Then, a sly grin spread across his face, and he said, "Where are those emails you mentioned? Are there really girls who take erotic photos and send them to you? There are actually people like that these days. Either they found them online, or they're from someone else. Do you think people these days are stupid?" But the kind of people who offered to show up for free, as Sun Xiang had said, did exist. They sent him photos of their daily lives, and they looked pretty and innocent. If Yukai was willing, he could find a few innocent women. Yukai felt like he was being shortchanged. Yukai had called Sun Xiang over to help him review resumes. The successor to such a large company would undoubtedly be more skilled than Yukai at reading resumes. And as the saying goes, two cobblers are better than Zhuge Liang. With a Zhuge Liang and a Zhou, he could definitely find a good assistant, right? After washing his face in the bathroom to clear his head, he came out feeling much better. He sat next to Sun Xiang and they both read emails, skipping the ones with obviously incorrect email addresses. He was just being polite, but he had definitely changed a lot in the past year. If he were still in school, he would have definitely clicked through each one, finding the truly good-looking, silly girls and using his skilled conversational skills to invite them out for a chat. What do you think of this one? She graduated from a top-tier university, used to be an assistant to a celebrity, and she's not bad-looking. Yukai said, "Don't just look at her pretty face, look for her real talent. She's clearly the kind of assistant who fetches tea and water, not the kind I want." Tisk, what's so hard about being your assistant? Anyone with a bit of wit can do it. And she graduated from a top-tier university, how could she be so stupid? Let's see. Just wait and see, okay. Yukai surrendered, backing up the person's profile. Sun Xiang quickly found another one that looked more suitable. Look at this one. She started working at the front desk at a large company, rose from reception to the president's assistant in 3 years, and now works at an online cultural company. She's a fan of yours, and if you choose her, she'll be your personal assistant. You're too lucky, aren't you? No, how did you manage to change your face so much in 2 years? It's weird. Sun Xiang finally realized the seriousness of the problem. Yukai used to be just a little more handsome than him, but now it wasn't just a little bit, it was a ton. Did he go to Korea for plastic surgery? Changed my face? No, I'm still me. Actually, from being handsome as a child to being incredibly handsome, there wasn't a huge change. Yukai himself often looked at his old photos, and it was just that his lips were a little thinner and his nose a little straighter. The biggest change was actually his face shape, but since Yukai was getting thinner, it didn't seem that noticeable. After 2 hours of picking and choosing, the two of them had chosen 10 people. Actually, there were many more, but Yukai couldn't bear to look any further, so he just chose from these 10. He contacted them by phone and scheduled a video interview for tomorrow. If there was only one satisfactory choice, they would just make the decision. If there were two, they would schedule another meeting. What if there weren't any? Then they could just look for it in the emails they hadn't read. It was nice to have one thing off their mind and one less thing to worry about. When the time came, he would let his assistant take the lead in the friendly conversation about interests with Warner, and he would just sit aside and have tea with the person in charge sent by Warner. Sun Shuang said, "What are you doing now? Playing games or going out to eat? Take me to the placement match, boss. Let's go out and eat first." Yukai had already gone to get his clothes. If he didn't go out to eat at this hour, would he have to cook for himself? The key was to have food at home. Even a good cook can't cook without rice, and there wasn't a single grain of rice in the house. The rice he bought last time from Iceland was infested with worms, so Yukai didn't dare eat it. He'd go to the supermarket to buy some new rice when he had time. The two of them went out, with Yukai leading them to a Sichuan restaurant. The selection of an assistant went smoothly. Sun Liang, an intelligent and beautiful woman, 34, was a professional agent who had previously managed several well-known authors before retiring after getting married. She divorced a few years ago and happened to see Yukai's job posting, so she applied with the idea of giving it a try. Since her previous work matched the assistant he needed, Yukai immediately chose her after the video interview without hesitation. He felt that none of the other applications would be as suitable as Sun's. Yukai and Sun Liang arrived at a Western restaurant first. Sun Liang gently stirred her coffee with a small spoon in her right hand and said with a smile, "This is my first time dealing with a contract for a novel with a foreign film and television company. I've only negotiated with domestic film and television companies before. It's about the same. Don't think foreigners are so intimidating. I don't think they're as good at negotiating as us Chinese." Yukai had negotiated contracts with foreigners before, but these European and American people always gave him a rigid vibe. It was better to chat with Chinese people in a more lively and informal manner. There was always some humor, and unless the negotiation was particularly serious, they would keep the conversation pleasant so that neither side would feel upset over a small loss of profit. Sun Liang smiled, not looking like she was lacking confidence. Dressed in a black business suit and gold-rimmed glasses, her every move exuded the air of a professional. Two foreigners, one Asian, walked in from outside. The leader, about 40 years old with a typical Western look, spotted Yukai and smiled widely, but he kept his voice low. After all, this was a cafe. "I'm Macmillan Wilfred, the man you called. Mr. Yi is even more handsome in person than in your photos. Last year, Time magazine didn't include you in its list of Asia's most beautiful faces. I'm starting to doubt their impartiality. Maybe they were trying to include me in the list of internationally beautiful faces." Yukai casually joked, and Macmillan was indeed a little surprised. Yukai's words were clearly different from what he had expected. Given the Chinese tradition of modesty, such shameless self-promotion was rare. "You're right, haha. Who is this lady?" "She's my agent. Mr. Wilfred speaks excellent Chinese. Please take a seat." Macmillan Wilfred shook hands with Sun Liang before sitting down. Indeed, if he simply called Sun Liang his assistant, her status would implicitly be lower than Yukai's. So, wherever he went, Yukai decided to refer to Sun Liang as his agent. Anyway, it was an assistant contract, so Yukai didn't care much about some minor details. Besides, Sun Liang was doing the work of an agent, so it was not outrageous to say that she was Yukai's agent. Chapter 432 Scripts. Yukai had absolutely no need for extra work, so signing an agent contract was a bad deal, as it would have meant giving away a significant portion of his income. Therefore, an assistant contract was the best option for him. Yukai would be angry with anyone who dared assign him work. The three people from Warner Brothers found their own seats. A white man sat alone at a separate table, while the Asian man and Macmillan sat across from Yukai and Sun Liang. The Asian man greeted Yukai, "Mr. Yi, your Harry Potter books are truly amazing. My whole family is a fan. Hello, I'm Wang Yuang, Deputy Regional Manager for Warner Brothers Asia." "Hello." Yukai shook his hand. Yukai had expected Macmillan to bring someone to discuss the details of the partnership, but he came in person. In the end, it was Yukai and Wang Yuang who were drinking coffee. Wang Yuang seemed to be joining in the fun, not interrupting Macmillan and Sun Liang's discussion. Instead, he turned to Yukai and asked, "Mr. Yi, when will the fourth Harry Potter book be released? My little daughter can't sleep without your books. It's an honor for your little princess to love her so much." The new book is already being promoted and will be in bookstores by the end of the month at the latest. "How old is your daughter?" 8. "I envy you. I want to have a daughter someday. The two exchanged life experiences while Sun Liang and Macmillan discussed the details of their collaboration, each without interfering. Wang Yuang found chatting with Yukai quite interesting and had the idea of becoming a closer friend. He said, "I've been thinking about buying a car lately, but I've been debating for a long time whether to buy a Ferrari or a Lamborghini." Yukai wanted to reply, "Why not buy both?" But after thinking it over, he decided not to. Since he didn't own either car, Yukai couldn't say which was better. He simply took out his phone and showed Wang Yuang the places he'd visited in the past 2 years and recounted his experiences. After reading it, Wang Yuang was silent for a moment. "Then I'll buy a Land Rover. My wife has always wanted to travel Europe, and I can drive the whole family there." Yukai smiled and said, "Anyway, my dream right now is to travel and see a lot. While we're still married, I want to spend more time around the world and experience other cultures. I heard you just got back from Iceland, where you lived for several months." "Yeah," Yukai nodded. "Actually, I've lived in Iceland for so long, and I haven't been to the Blue Lagoon or hiked on the glacier. Others who come to Iceland like to tick off these places like a to-do list, and use them as conversation pieces when they return." Wang Yuang pointed to Yukai's phone, which contained photos he had taken in Iceland. "Aren't you the same?" Yukai was stunned, then smiled and said, "Haha, you're right, I'm young too." Although he also loved taking photos, Yukai was different from the other tourists. While they visited many of Iceland's attractions over a few days or a month, they only saw the scenery of a foreign land. Yukai lived among a group of Icelanders, visiting Lake Thorning with them, feeding ducks, strolling through Reykjavik's cemeteries like a park, and learning to make traditional Icelandic Christmas cookies. In 3 months, Yukai had gained a deep understanding of Icelandic culture. Perhaps this is the difference between tourism and travel. Suddenly, he heard no sound coming from the side. Yukai turned his head to look at Macmillan and Sun Liang and asked, "Sorry, I might have been too engrossed in the conversation." Macmillan smiled and said, "We've been listening to your travel stories too, and we really hope to see your travelogue published. The Iceland travelogue is already in the works." Sun Liang said, "Let's get down to business first." She placed her hands on the table, interlacing her fingers. "Mr. Wilfred hopes that you will personally participate in the adaptation of the script. The cost is $200,000. In addition, you will receive 11% of the box office revenue as the original author." Sun Liang had previously discussed with Yukai the potential returns from a Hollywood adaptation. Yukai thought 8% would be acceptable, but he didn't expect the final figure to be 11%. "I agree," Yukai nodded. Macmillan continued, "Also, we noticed you posted a short story online called Daydreamer. Are you going to sell that script? Can this be made into a movie?" Yukai asked, puzzled. It was just a short story he'd written when he was bored. Wang Yuang suddenly said, "Actually, this short story is why I'm here. I love this story, and I'd like you to play the role of the photographer. This. Selling scripts is fine, but I've never filmed anything myself. If you like it, I can definitely buy it, but we'll talk about the role later." There wasn't much to say about the script, and of course, there was no profit. It was sold to Warner Brothers for $1.2 million. It was already 4 in the afternoon when they finished discussing things. He'd wanted to treat them to a meal, as is customary in China, but the foreigners disagreed, so the idea went away and they all went their separate ways. After the Warner agents got into the car, Sun Liang asked, "Do you have anything else to do?" "No, I'm taking a few days off to go home for the Lunar New Year. You should go home early for the Spring Festival too." Sun Liang smiled and said, "Just for today's matter, I'll have to run to Warner for many days. Things at a big company aren't that simple. And there's a literary award coming up in a few days." "Are you going?" "Huh? What award?" she asked instinctively, then quickly added, No. It's pointless. If I could accept it on your behalf, I'd have to make an extra trip. If you have nothing else to do, just rest at home. Being Yukai's assistant is really easy. As long as you don't mind the fatigue." Sun Liang felt that being Yukai's assistant didn't involve so much chores. Of course, running around was normal. It was the job of an assistant and agent, and Sun Liang had already prepared for it. "Will you be traveling more often in the future? Do I need to come with you?" "Not necessarily." Sun Liang was a little disappointed. She had thought she could travel with Yukai. Yukai drove the SUV that Bifang had sent him and asked, Are you going back to the hotel now? Or do you want to explore Chengdu? I'm free today, so I can show you around. Just take me back to the hotel. Where are you planning your next trip? India, Greece, or Egypt? You can figure it out before you leave. It was not far from the Spring Festival, and he had to take Saoirse home for the holiday this year. Otherwise, Yukai would have definitely gone abroad again and wouldn't have stayed in Chengdu the entire time. After visiting the frigid Arctic, Yukai had a hankering for the desert, perhaps even spending some time in Egypt. The best time to travel to Egypt is from December to March. This is the Egyptian winter, and the heat isn't as intense. Cold weather can be dealt with by dressing well, but if it's too hot, Yukai doesn't really want to go outdoors. Chapter 431 Award. After returning home, Yukai reread the short story he'd written in Iceland. He felt it could be adapted into film, primarily because the real-life plot was a bit monotonous, so Yukai added some twists and turns. The protagonist loses his job but finds love. Furthermore, this trip marks a turning point in his life. From then on, no matter what job he takes, he won't be as insecure and daydreamy as before. If filmed well, audiences will love this kind of story. After a few days of rest, Sun Liang had to attend an awards ceremony. She asked Yukai to prepare at home, and the organizers said they could contact him via video at any time. This was an official reminder to Yukai, and the meaning was self-evident. He had won. The full name of this literary award is the Zhou Ping Literary Award. It was established in the 1990s and is the only award in China that recognizes English novels like Harry Potter. In fact, many of Yukai's works have won awards in the past 2 years, but because the organizers couldn't contact him, they rescinded the award and gave it to someone else. The Zhou Ping Literature Award is one of the top 10 literary prizes in China. If Sun Liang hadn't discovered it while reading Yukai's private messages, Yukai probably wouldn't have known about it at this point. On January 17th, Yukai watched the award ceremony broadcast at home. Many of the people present were domestic writers Yukai knew well, including a few photographers. After searching on Baidu, he discovered that the Zhou Ping Literature Award not only recognizes novels and literary works, but also includes emerging photography literature, which is why there were so many photographers. After all, what photographer hasn't published 2 photography books? Yukai himself had, but that was 2 years ago. Now we're awarding the Best Novel Award. The nominees are Fen Xin's A Stroll with Art Masters, Wang Jia's The Birth of a Chinese, Peng Zeping's April, The Most Beautiful Spring, and Yukai's Harry Potter. Judging by the video, the atmosphere at the event was quite tense. This award is a major annual event, on par with the best film in the film and television industry, and the most important prize at the ceremony. The cameras panned over the nominees one by one. Though they all smiled, their nervousness was palpable. Even Sun Liang, who attended the ceremony in Yukai's place, looked at the host with anticipation. Hey, is there any need to be like this? It's just an award, isn't it? Unlike the others, dressed in suits and ties, Yukai sat at home in a shirt, munching on sunflower seeds. Even though his name was called, Yukai showed no signs of nervousness. He didn't care whether he won the award or not. To him, it didn't matter, life would continue as usual, and it wouldn't affect his ability to make money. Harry Potter had already made enough money, and Yukai even considered donating some of it. In the video, the host, wearing a glittering red suit, held a microphone in his right hand and a half-open envelope in his left, containing a card with the winner's work. Who's the grand prize winner? Honestly, I'm looking forward to it too. I've read all the nominated books. Teacher Wang Jia is sweating. Is the air conditioning in our venue not working well? The host dragged on for 5 minutes before contentedly pulling out the card. After glancing at it, the host exclaimed, "Oh, it's him." He took a deep breath and shouted, "Congratulations. Congratulations to the author of Harry Potter, Teacher Yukai." A colorful rain fell from the venue as Sun Liang, holding up the hem of her gown, walked onto the stage. The host said, "Before today, the youngest winner of our Zhou Ping Literature Award was 31. Today, that record has been broken. At 24, Teacher Yukai has won this award, representing the pinnacle of Chinese literature." Watching the enthusiastic atmosphere, Yukai suddenly regretted not attending. A beautiful woman approached, carrying the trophy. Sun Liang took it with a smile, then took the microphone from the host. After calming herself down, she said, "Mr. Yukai is unable to come in person to receive this award due to personal reasons. I think this is a great pity. Before coming here, Mr. Yukai asked me to convey his apologies. The host said, let Mr. Yukai express his apologies in person. Now, in this technological age, we can reach Mr. Yukai via video call. Yukai's phone rang. Someone was making a video call request to Yukai via WeChat. After clicking OK, Yukai's face appeared on the big screen at the awards ceremony. The background was Yukai's study. His smile made him look even more sunny and youthful. He didn't look at all like a 25-year-old. Some people would believe he had just entered university. Hello everyone. I've been watching the awards ceremony on TV. Before my name was called, I had no idea I'd actually won this award. Honestly, I was pretty daunted. The host smiled and said, Teacher Yukai, we all know your Harry Potter books have sold 30 million copies. How did you come up with the idea of writing such a novel from a Western fantasy perspective? The novel was inspired by the library of Trinity College in Ireland. And since I happen to have some knowledge of European culture, I thought of writing it in English. After all, this novel takes place in Europe, and writing it in Chinese would probably be out of place. Yukai then thanked a few people he wanted to thank, mostly editors who had helped him. Editor-in-Chief Colm in the UK, and Editor-in-Chief Joe Kevin in Changsha. Publishing this book was quite difficult. I approached publishers all over the UK, and it was Mr. Colm who finally agreed to sign the contract, which led to Harry Potter's current success. The host nodded and said, so there were such twists and turns in the publishing process for Harry Potter. But I believe no publisher in any country will refuse to publish your work from now on. Thank you again, Mr. Yukai, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us online for the awards ceremony. Yukai didn't know if he blushed, but it felt a bit hot. He was just lazy. He hadn't had a good rest in the first place, and he had to go to Shanghai for a few days to attend a literary awards ceremony. If it were held in Chengdu, Yukai would definitely go. After hanging up the video, 2 literary giants were invited to comment on Harry Potter. Perhaps this book won't be loved by all Chinese literary figures, but no one invited to the awards ceremony would say anything bad about Yukai or Harry Potter. Otherwise, wouldn't that be a slap in the face? He continued watching for a while, and only after all the awards were given out did Yukai turn off the video and open his typing app. He still had to write about his Iceland travelogue. Travelogues are primarily written for my future self, just like some people enjoy keeping a diary. Of course, if my travelogues can help someone else thinking about visiting Iceland, even better. At the very least, they can learn about a delicious hot dog stand in Reykjavik, a cemetery you can use as a park, and a fast food restaurant in front of the famous geyser that serves delicious lamb soup. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 432. What is a man's arm for? In Dublin, the young and beautiful Catherine Saoirse was packing her luggage for a trip to China. As exquisite gifts were packed into her suitcase, she quietly counted them: Baileys, Irish whiskey, handmade wool sweaters, handmade chocolates. The neatly arranged boxes filled the entire suitcase. On her bed, her phone displayed a request for help. What should I do on my first visit to my boyfriend's house in China? The reply suggested bringing some local specialties from my hometown. Saoirse had no idea what a specialty meant. After translating it into English, she searched for Irish specialties. This search filled the entire suitcase. After fiddling for a long time, Saoirse had the boxes neatly arranged, like Lego blocks, a delight to the eye. Just as she was about to close the suitcase, she suddenly thought, what should I do with my clothes? There was no room for clothes in the suitcase. And it was winter, with temperatures dropping low in both Ireland and China. If she did bring clothes, it would definitely take up a lot of space. Should she take some boxes out of the suitcase? Even with these things, I still feel it's not enough. I finally managed to stack them neatly. How can I take them out again? Impossible. Clothes, daily necessities, and cosmetics, I have to find another way. The perspective crosses the mountains and the sea, and arrives at China late at night. Countless Chinese people watch Yukai's live broadcast on their mobile phones or computers. Some people watch Yukai play games to appreciate his superb operating skills and miraculous reactions, while others simply want to see Yukai's face. It is really a pity in the entertainment industry that such a handsome man doesn't make movies. Of course, this is just the opinion of some fans who like his looks. Serious fans are still looking forward to Yukai writing at home every day. No food if he doesn't publish a novel in a month. So Yukai's choice to live in such a community was definitely his wisest decision last year. Otherwise, those Koni-like fans and paparazzi would have found out the specific address of Yukai's residence long ago. Let's stop here for today. Everyone, get some rest. The broadcast ended at lightning speed. Removing his headphones, Yukai stretched lazily, yawning, and crawled into bed. Live streaming is exhausting. Anything you do for a long time is exhausting. He pulled out his phone and sent a WhatsApp message to Saoirse. How is it going? Have you bought the tickets? Saoirse replied quickly, I've already bought them. Honey, are we really going to go directly to meet your parents? I'm a little nervous, and I'm not sure if my uncle and aunt will like me. You asked that question. Yukai felt completely confident in this question. He recalled how his mother had urged him to find a girlfriend. As long as he didn't bring back a man, there would be no problem. Besides, Saoirse had mentioned buying a lot of small gifts. A foreign daughter-in-law came all the way from thousands of miles away to bring you things. You can't just keep giving them the cold shoulder, can you? As the saying goes, a man who feeds others is soft-spoken, and a man who takes from others is obligated. This alone won't embarrass you. Don't worry, my parents are very nice. Even if you say that, I still don't know what to do. Saoirse's parents had been dead for 3 years, and she hadn't had much contact with her relatives. She had long forgotten how to deal with her elders, especially her boyfriends. This made her very nervous. The people she usually interacted with, or her friends, were mostly in bands, mostly her peers. The only person she could consider an elder was perhaps her violin teacher, Mr. David. But there was a difference between teachers and family, and Saoirse knew that. Yukai turned over in bed and pressed the voice message, Don't worry, I'm always by your side. What's a man's arm for? Isn't it to protect his woman from the wind and rain? Expression, vomit, it seems like it's getting late in China. Go to bed. See you the day after tomorrow. Yes, see you the day after tomorrow. I'll pick you up at the airport. After ending the conversation, Yukai reflected on what he had said earlier. It's fine, and the voice is nice too. I guess even voice actors can't speak as well as I do. But why the vomiting emoji? Maybe you're shy? Saoirse's plane will transfer in Germany, and if the flight is not delayed, she will arrive in China at 10 p.m. Yukai arrived at Shuangliu Airport 2 hours in advance and found the airport manager. He wanted to meet her at the jet bridge. First of all, he wanted to give Saoirse a surprise, and secondly, he was worried that she would be recognized by fans outside, which would affect public safety and hinder other passengers. Celebrities with a certain level of popularity are considered a special group at the airport and can use special channels at the airport. Here Yukai has to mention, if a celebrity does not enter and exit the airport through the VIP channel, and a large group of fans have obtained the celebrity's itinerary from unknown sources and pick up and drop off the celebrity at the airport, this situation is usually deliberately arranged by the celebrity's agency. Nowadays, celebrities fly all over the country, and their flight range may be longer than Yukai's. Is it possible that he is not a VIP? After a facial scan at the airport, Yukai was quickly approved to enter the airport. The Harry Potter controversy hasn't completely subsided, and Yukai's popularity remains incredibly high. If he were recognized at the airport, the resulting congestion could seriously impact public safety. The jet bridge was quiet today. Yukai was the only one waiting. A ground staff member kept staring at Yukai's face. If it weren't for the rules, she'd probably have whipped out her phone and been snapping selfies frantically. Of course, Yukai was standing nearby in the background. Yukai noticed her, smiled, and nodded. The female employees at Shuangliu Airport, whether flight attendants or not, were generally quite attractive. Yukai had a little knowledge of Southwest Aviation University. He'd heard that appearance was a significant criterion in their admissions. Of course, an academy doesn't just train flight attendants. So many women who dream of becoming flight attendants but can't make it have become ground staff at major airports. The young woman in the purple uniform had a dreamy look in her eyes. Did Yukai smile at me? A whistling sound echoed from the horizon, and a plane slowly landed at Yukai's jet bridge. He already knew it was from Germany, but he still checked his watch. Around 10 o'clock. Yes, it should be this plane. The cabin door opened, and tourists returning home and those going abroad filed out. Young people wore colorful jackets, headphones hanging around their necks, and looked like they would rap to everyone they met. Yukai saw an elderly man who might be traveling abroad for the first time. When he walked out of the cabin door and saw the familiar country, his hands and feet were shaking with excitement. The young man next to him was also shaking with fear. Saoirse walked out of the cabin door with a bag on her back. At first glance, she saw Yukai, who seemed to be radiating a brilliant light at any time. The excitement on her face flashed, and she trotted towards Yukai. In fact, they had only been apart for 20 days. After Christmas, Yukai returned to China from Iceland. He had lived in Ireland for a few days. It was because he was with Saoirse that he missed the Chinese New Year. Chapter 433 Gift. The night outside the airport bridge was inky black, but the lights inside the airport were exceptionally bright. The two embraced each other tightly, Saoirse's joyful laughter like that of a little girl encountering a fairy tale sea of flowers. "Honey, I didn't expect you to be here. How did you get in? I can come in whenever I want. Let me go. There are so many people watching." Abroad, hugging is allowed freely, it's part of their social etiquette. At airports, hugging couples, families, and friends is commonplace, so people exchange knowing smiles and don't pay attention to the hugger's appearance. But in China, hugging in public is considered rude. He attracted a lot of attention, and Yukai's features were very recognizable, so someone quickly recognized him. Three young people were so excited that they almost jumped up. They had never been so close to a celebrity before. It was just that this woman was a bit of an eyesore. One of the boys pulled a copy of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows from his backpack, found a pen, and walked over to Yukai. His voice trembled as he said, "Hello, can you sign for me?" Yukai smiled, taking the paper and pen and saying, "Of course." With a few quick strokes, he wrote the words Yukai on the book's front page. His name was simple, and the simplified calligraphy made it particularly easy and beautiful. The similarity between calligraphers and painters is their ability to create beauty with the simplest lines. As if on cue, the girls found a sticky note, while the other, having run out of paper, asked Yukai to sign her Louis Vuitton bag instead. Yukai held the pen in the air and asked again, "Are you sure? Are you really going to write on this?" "Yeah, it's just a bag." So, for the first time, Yukai signed a luxury item. The pen had belonged to the boy before, and he wasn't sure if it would wash out, but the girl didn't look like she needed money, given her appearance. This bag would probably just be kept as a collection, never used again. Some people who knew Yukai, as well as those just joining in the fun, lined up behind him to get his autograph. Yukai obliged, as the crowds weren't too crowded. After satisfying the tourists' requests, Yukai took Saoirse to get the suitcases. The airport's bustle knows no time of day. Shuangliu Airport's flights are now scheduled from early morning until the next morning, leaving the airport staff with virtually no free time. This is precisely why Chengdu built a second airport. Holding Saoirse's hand, feeling the girl's excitement beside him, Yukai felt a good mood and casually asked, "Do you have a lot of luggage?" "Not much, just some gifts from my uncles and aunts. They're specialties from our country." Saoirse spoke the word specialties seriously, wanting to show Yukai her newfound vocabulary. After she finished speaking, she looked him in the eye. "What for?" Yukai asked, puzzled. "Specialties, Irish, specialties. My Chinese, is it good?" "Oh, sure. I speak perfectly. Later, if you say you studied abroad in China, I don't think anyone will doubt you. Let's go, I want to see what you brought." Standing by the conveyor belt, Saoirse's luggage soon arrived. Yukai had seen this suitcase several times before, and he lifted it up. The suitcase was heavy, as if it wasn't travel luggage, but a box of sand. Specialties. Could she be sand from the Irish coast? But my Saoirse couldn't be that stupid, could she? "It's so heavy, what's in it?" "Just some specialties." Yukai rolled his eyes, speechless, thinking it couldn't be sand. He said, "Let's go. You should have eaten on the plane, right? Go home and get some sleep." "Wait a minute, there's more. There's more." Saoirse pulled a new suitcase down from the conveyor belt. It was pink, about 20 inches long. Judging by the way Saoirse was carrying it, it must have been lighter. Yukai assumed the new suitcase contained the actual luggage. His suitcase was filled with what Saoirse had called specialties. Let's go. I'm bored to death after a day on the plane. Let's go back, put our things down, and go to the movies. Are there any good movies in China lately? Kingsman, The Golden Circle. Sure, whatever, Yukai squeezed Saoirse's still cold hand. They each carried a suitcase and walked back out the VIP exit. Yukai's car was parked in the parking lot. There were many cars in the lot, some of which had been there for months, their windshields thick with dust. The cheapest of them was more expensive than Yukai's northern SUV, which made him think about upgrading. He liked cars, but he felt it was a bit wasteful to buy one now. As someone who loved to travel, if he bought one, it would just sit in the garage and he wouldn't drive it much more than a few times a year. He got in the car and headed home. After punching the code to open the door, Yukai asked as soon as he entered, "What did you bring?" "An Irish specialty, wine." "Yes, I have wine." Saoirse took the suitcase, placed it on the floor, and opened it, revealing neatly arranged boxes filled with chocolates, whiskey, liquor, clothes, a skirt. From the array of gifts, Yukai picked up the skirt. This skirt, you don't?" Saoirse nodded and said, "Yes, it's from my uncle. It's a set with this one, for my uncle and aunt. I saw online that many Chinese people who come to Ireland buy them." Sure enough. Saoirse had brought 2 sets of traditional Irish clothing. Like traditional Chinese clothing, even men had special skirts. But their traditional clothing was completely different from ancient Chinese clothing. Their skirts were actually not much different from modern skirts. Many tourists who visit Ireland and are lucky enough to attend Irish festivals will see men wearing skirts like this, which are only long enough to cover the knees, and are covered with long socks like those worn for football. It's really eye-catching. Let's forget about this. In fact, just take a bottle of whiskey. My dad doesn't have any other hobbies and rarely drinks. He searched in the box again. He found an Irish sweater in it. This kind of sweater is similar to the Icelandic sweater. The quality and style are very good. Yukai thinks his mother should like it. Just these 2 will be fine. Isn't that too little? Saoirse frowned. She saw something on the internet saying that people won't dislike you if you give them too many gifts, so she brought so many things. If she only brought 2, what if they don't like her? Thank you all for your concern. Grandpa will have surgery tomorrow. Chapter 434 Sweetness. Although she didn't bring any sand, Saoirse was quite talented for packing so much into such a small suitcase. I'm sure she's played a lot of Jenga. She took the items out of the suitcase one by one and put them on the counter. The most she brought was alcohol. The Irish have a special fondness for alcohol, which has led to the emergence of a wide variety of delicious alcoholic beverages. This has become a speciality of Ireland, attracting many alcoholics just to try some authentic Irish liquor. Saoirse brought a large amount of various bottles, which she could only save on herself. Fortunately, the refrigerator was quite empty, and putting a few things in it immediately brought some life to the room. After packing, Saoirse took Yukai's arm. "Let's go out for a walk." It was almost midnight, but Saoirse was still very energetic. She had just arrived from Europe and had already slept in the plane during the day. "You need to deal with the jet lag. How about we go out tomorrow?" "Jet lag? No, I can stay up tonight and tomorrow morning. It's the same if I sleep in tomorrow night. It's not my first time in China, after all." Yukai didn't mind going out to the movies, but he knew it wasn't Saoirse who wanted to see a movie, but rather she couldn't sleep. If she couldn't sleep, she had to find something to do. Yukai picked Saoirse up, causing her to gasp. "You have to go to bed first anyway. It's the same if I take you out to the movies tomorrow. You just arrived in China, rest for a few days and then I'll take you back to my parents." While it's common for young people to pull a few all-nighters, Yukai didn't think it was necessary. This room was familiar to Saoirse, and a touch of nostalgia welled up in her heart. The 2 of them hugged each other, with their beloved by their side, the warm blankets tucked in. In such an environment, even the most sleepless person would fall asleep quickly. The next day, light streamed in from the window, waking Yukai. When he opened his eyes, he saw someone sitting next to him, quietly staring out the window, their hands folded on the blanket. The light shone slightly on her face, and only her long eyelashes could be seen fluttering. It was Saoirse. As she looked out the window, water droplets dripped from the balcony awning. It was raining. He squinted slightly, and after a few seconds to clear his mind, he propped himself up on his elbows and leaned against Saoirse, wrapping his left arm around her shoulders. What are you looking at? The rain. Haha, you're awake. Where are you going today? Can't we just stay home? Yukai was very fond of new things when it came to scenery. He always wanted to see places he hadn't been to, but once he'd been there, he lost interest in them. Other places were fine. But Chengdu, while a large city, was where Yukai had lived since college. He had visited Chengxi Road and Jinli Road, and even the giant panda base at least 5 times. Wait a minute. Yukai said. Yukai found his phone by the bed and opened the map to see if there were any fun places around, but it was really hard for Yukai to find. He did see a newly opened paintball club. He could ask Sun Shang to go there later. Let's go to Ocean Park. Yukai suggested. Ocean Park is in Shuangliu, which is far from where Yukai lives, but it's not a detour. Just drive south along Xianfu Avenue and you'll find Ocean Park right next to Xianfu Avenue. Saoirse rarely comes to China, and she can't always stay at home. It would be nice to go out for a walk. The two got up and changed clothes. It was winter now, and he wore a thick down jacket, a mask, and plain glasses for camouflage. These things made Yukai look a little ordinary. Anyone who had looked into Yukai's eyes would never forget his eyes that were like the stars in the sky. So wearing glasses might be a better disguise than wearing a hat. Seeing this, Saoirse chuckled, "You've gained fame and money, but you've lost your freedom. God, I can't imagine how you live alone in China. That's why I like to go out." Yukai pinched Saoirse's cheek and said with a smile, "Let's go." Driving to the Ocean Park, Yukai realized the difference between this visit and previous ones. The biggest difference was the people around him. Recalling the feelings he'd had when he'd visited the aquarium with his girlfriend, Yukai couldn't recall them. Now, walking with Saoirse, he felt an inexplicable sweetness in his heart, a feeling familiar yet strangely unfamiliar. Yukai felt that he must have felt similar emotions with others before. Although love is the same, giving the same love to different people can bring different sweetness. Perhaps this is why love always captivates people. Buy a ticket and enter. The visitors here are mostly young men and women, with some parents bringing their children, but it's rare to see older people or those visiting alone. The ticket price of 240 yuan is a bit expensive for a city like Chengdu. It had been ages since Yukai's last visit. He studied the small map the ticket inspector had handed him upon entering. The back of the map had the times for the whale and dolphin shows written on it. 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 4 p.m. We're early. It was now 11:30. If they'd wanted to see the 10 p.m. show, they'd already be late. The whale and dolphin show wouldn't start until 2 p.m. The two of them had eaten bread at home, not wanting lunch just yet, so Yukai decided to take Saoirse around the aquarium first, to see the jellyfish and penguins. Besides the jellyfish, Yukai had seen every animal in the aquarium in the wild. From dolphins to penguins, even beluga whales and polar bears, Yukai had seen them all. So, this trip was purely to accompany Saoirse, or perhaps Saoirse felt the same way. The destination wasn't important, what mattered was being together. Upon arriving at the jellyfish aquarium, Saoirse let go of Yukai's hand and ran to the various glass windows, tapping them with her fingers, as if the jellyfish could sense the sound of her tapping. But the result was obvious, the jellyfish completely ignored her. She walked all the way to the second floor, where there was a jellyfish breeding room, divided into 2 areas, one of which was open to tourists, where they could see the jellyfish in the fish tank. The fish tank only reached Yukai's chest. If he wanted to do something bad, Yukai could even reach out and grab the jellyfish. But such behavior is very dangerous. The danger of the jellyfish is secondary. The main thing is that he is afraid that the people in the room will run out and ask Yukai to pay a fine. The other room does not allow tourists to enter, but is a researcher's studio. If you ignore the 2 or 3 handsome men and beautiful women in white coats in the room, just look at this area that is allowed to tourists. It really looks like the aquatic area of a vegetable market, too simple. Thanks to Mu we will in for the reward. Chapter 435 Ocean Park. Saoirse was born in Galway, a city close to the ocean. Even so, she had never seen a jellyfish this large. Encountering jellyfish on the beach is a dangerous prospect. Their toxicity can easily cause seizures. In Saoirse's town, drownings from jellyfish are a common occurrence every year. So, seeing so many jellyfish here filled Saoirse with both curiosity and fear. Passing by an aquarium, She saw several jellyfish tentacles entangled together. The aquarium staff were using long skewers to try to separate the jellyfish. The task looked easy, but Yukai felt it would take 2 or 3 hours to separate them without causing any damage. It was like untying a rope. If you don't do it correctly, the knots will only get tighter and tighter, especially since they were using thin skewers instead of their hands. Many people stood there watching, and Yukai and Saoirse stayed for 10 minutes. But seeing no progress, they left early. The aquarium also had penguin and turtle enclosures. It wasn't the only area. Leaving the jellyfish aquarium, they headed towards the seals. Seals and sea lions weren't housed in a separate enclosure. Instead, they lived outdoors, in a vast swimming pool, surrounded by glass so people could watch them swim. It was actually quite smelly here, but oddly, there were many snack bars nearby. Further along, they reached the polar bear enclosure. The polar bears in this ocean park were the loneliest they'd ever seen, confined to a room of about 100 square meters, circling endlessly. They were like this when Yukai visited a few years ago, and they still behaved the same way now. I really suspect this is just a giant screen, Yukai said to Saoirse. Saoirse reached out her hand to feel the cool air conditioning through the glass and said, "No. I guess the place is just too small, and the bear doesn't know what to do." Wild polar bears are also suffering these days. Yukai's camera still captured the dog-like bear he encountered in the Arctic. Its legs had already lost their function. It must be dead now, right? This polar bear, though surrounded by countless people and without freedom, has a hope of survival. Perhaps in a few decades, the greenhouse effect will wipe out polar bears in the wild. Then, these oceanariums or zoos housing polar bears will be the only places where future generations will be able to see them. It's called a polar bear, but you're not on the Arctic. How tragic. After seeing turtles and sharks, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a series of performances began. Dolphin shows, beluga whale shows, mermaid shows. The mermaid show was actually 2 white divers dancing underwater. Saoirse pulled Yukai away after watching the beginning. It was an eyesore. After visiting so many places, Saoirse's favorite spot was the whale and dolphin show. The second floor was above water, and through the glass on the first floor, people could see beluga whales and dolphins swimming underwater. Every time she took Yukai near, the beluga whales would stick to the glass and greet him, a phenomenon that Saoirse found strange. "Do they know you?" "No, but I guess they know I'm a good friend." "Boast." Saoirse pouted. Tired of standing, she squatted on the ground, gazing at the beluga whale through the glass. Through the several centimeter thick glass, she stroked its skin. Its skin wasn't smooth, and some might even find it frightening. But its face was friendly. Whether the whales were happy or angry, their expressions revealed it. Perhaps this was proof of their intelligence. Knowing Saoirse and Yukai knew each other, they treated her kindly. Yukai stood behind Saoirse, observing the other marine animals. In the city, Yukai had to avoid his fans to avoid being recognized, and he had few friends. But in nature, most animals could be considered his friends. The intimacy skill was incredibly useful. It didn't simply increase Yukai's intimacy with other animals, Yukai felt it directly enhanced his natural affinity. This made him feel like a druid in a novel when he walked in the wild. At 5 o'clock, the two of them left the aquarium and found a hot pot restaurant. Saoirse couldn't handle spicy food, so Yukai rarely took her to hot pot restaurants. Chili peppers were originally a fruit meant to protect animals from eating them, until they encountered humans. Returning home that evening, Yukai found a photo of a polar bear he'd taken in the Arctic in his photo album. Saoirse stood behind Yukai, her arms entwined around his neck, and bent over the photo. "What is this? A polar bear? It's so skinny, isn't it?" "Yeah, but unfortunately, due to local laws, I can't get too close to this polar bear, or offer any help. Now think about it, I'm with an animal protection organization, right? Protecting wildlife also requires following local laws." Saoirse laughed and kissed Yukai on the cheek. "My boyfriend is with the WPSA. That's amazing. I didn't think about it then." Yukai held a high rank in the organization, just one step away from middle management. He didn't report to anyone, and with only 2 missions a year, he had so much free time that he often forgot he was even a WPSA member. She posted the photo to her Weibo account, along with a folded hands emoji. There was a statistic in the WPSA WeChat group. Over the past century, half of Earth's species have become extinct due to human activity, yet no one has taken this statistic seriously. Whales are already endangered, yet island nations have resumed commercial whaling, killing large numbers of them every year. Saoirse placed her cool hand on Yukai's temple, gently rubbing it. There's no point in overthinking it. We can't protect all the animals in the world. Yukai grabbed Saoirse's hand. Your hands are cold. Wear something extra tomorrow. But I didn't bring anything. One of her suitcases was filled with gifts, and the other, smaller one, contained groceries and cosmetics. Winter clothes are thick, so she didn't bring much? Bye. No big deal. Go buy a bunch of clothes tomorrow. Going home for the new year, of course, meant wearing new clothes. Saoirse did bring gifts for her parents, but she still had to pack some things for herself, for her parents, her uncle, her aunt, and her sister. I don't know if my 2 younger sisters will come over, but I'll buy the gifts first. Chapter 436, Bringing Saoirse Home. The New Year atmosphere is getting stronger and stronger. Fireworks are prohibited in Chengdu, and Yukai no longer sees places selling firecrackers on the streets, but children can always find places to buy firecrackers, and the sound of firecrackers can always be heard when walking in some residential areas. Yukai was loading things into the car, and the laughter of children and the sound of firecrackers came from the woods in the distance. When Saoirse heard the firecrackers at first, she was scared and thought they were gunshots. After Yukai explained, she became interested in firecrackers. When she heard someone setting off firecrackers, she was a little moved and looked at Yukai. Let's talk about it when we get back to Xiancheng. There are a lot of people setting off firecrackers there. Although there are few places in Xiancheng that prohibit the setting off of fireworks, it is still allowed in most areas. When Yukai went back last year, he saw many stores selling fireworks. After getting in the car, Yukai asked, "Don't they have firecrackers in Ireland?" "They have fireworks, but not the kind that explode." "Very interesting. Will you buy me some when we get home?" Yukai thought of a joke and said with a smile, "Yes, buy the most expensive ones." "Are 2 enough?" "2. Saoirse thought for a moment. "Not enough. I want a lot, a lot." Haha. Saoirse hadn't seen the video. They started the car, drove out of the residential complex, and headed for Xiancheng. It only takes about 2 hours to get from Rongcheng back to Xiancheng on the highway, or 3 at most if you drive slowly. Once you get off the highway, it's about a 5-minute drive home. Saoirse dozed off on the highway and woke up in a new city. Compared to Rongcheng, Xiancheng's architecture is much more modest, and the people on the streets are more relaxed. Rongcheng probably has the slowest pace of life among China's major first-tier cities, but it still can't compare to other inland cities in Sichuan province, which are noticeably more relaxed. There are few large enterprises, little competitiveness, and most business owners don't have lofty ambitions. Those who have a confidence in themselves will definitely go to bigger cities to develop after making their first pot of gold. And outstanding talents also stay in first-tier cities after graduating from university. I believe that China's future, like other countries, will follow the path of large metropolitan areas. With a large city as the center, the surrounding small cities are gradually absorbed into the big city. Drove into the residential complex and parked the car in the underground parking lot. Turning off the engine, Yukai squeezed Saoirse's arm. "Don't worry, I was so happy when I called them yesterday. I guess they must have prepared a large table of dishes." As soon as the voice fell, the phone rang. Yukai checked the caller ID, shook it at Saoirse and said, "Look, they called to urge us. Come, help me get something." He closed the car door and answered the phone. "Hey, Mom. When are you guys arriving?" "It's almost 11:30. I'm not rushing you, just drive slower and be careful. It's been raining for the past few days, and the roads are slippery." "Okay, Mom, we're here." Yukai was carrying a travel bag filled with gifts for his family. Saoirse was holding 2 bags filled with wine and sweaters, and she had a handbag slung over her shoulder. Before leaving the house today, Saoirse had spent an hour just thinking about how to dress. Yukai could say without hesitation that Saoirse looked the most beautiful and charming he had ever seen her. "Are we there?" "Where are we?" "In the elevator." "Okay, the signal's going to be gone soon, so I'm hanging up." Yukai hung up the phone and winked at Saoirse. "See, you're so impatient. Hey, this has been my mom's wish for years. It looks like it's almost coming true. What about yours?" Saoirse tilted her head, thinking for a moment, then hesitantly said, "A solo concert." "A concert? There'll be a chance." The moment the elevator door opened, Not only Saoirse, but Yukai himself began to get nervous, a sense of homesickness. Returning with Saoirse was completely different from returning alone. But Yukai couldn't show it now. He still smiled warmly, put his phone in his pocket, took Saoirse's hand, and said, "Don't be nervous, you're sweating." Before coming to China, Saoirse had read a lot of Q&A and information about Chinese parents. No matter where you looked, Eastern parents seemed scary, especially those videos where in-laws beat or scolded their daughters-in-law. It looked really scary. Approaching the door, Yukai found it already open. His mother was waiting at the door, examining her face, her hair, and her clothes. Yukai wouldn't believe her if she said she hadn't been to the beauty salon. Wasn't that a bit too formal? Saoirse seemed to be like that this morning as well. "Oh, we're here. This is your girlfriend, right?" Li Meili froze for a moment when she saw Saoirse. She knew Yukai had been traveling a lot in the past 2 years, and most of his girlfriends were foreigners. She'd found out last night, too. But she was still a little shocked to see her son with a foreign woman. The girl was quite pretty. When you get used to a certain face, you tend to find people of other descent handsome or beautiful. It's what people often call the added bonus of exotic charm. Not to mention Saoirse was already beautiful. Yukai had grown a bit in the past 2 years, and Saoirse wasn't short either. They looked a good match. "Hello, Auntie," Saoirse said cautiously. Her tone was different from her usual carefree manner. It was now cautious, like a young woman from Suzhou. However, her broken Chinese somewhat dampened the atmosphere. "You're welcome, it's good to speak Chinese." Li Meili didn't know what else to say. She let Yukai and Saoirse in, then called out to the kitchen, "Dad, Xiaoke is back with his girlfriend. Come out and see." Ye Xiuqian quickly emerged, wiping his hands on his apron. "I'm cooking. What do you want me to see?" You're Saoirse, right? Yukai mentioned you last night. You're so beautiful. What kind of job do you have?" Yukai, words Saoirse didn't understand, said, "She's still in school. Dad, you go cook first." "Hey, kid." Dad pointed at Yukai, but quickly smiled again. "Okay, I'll cook for you." Saoirse, sit down and rest for a while. Are you used to Sichuan cuisine?" Saoirse looked at Yukai with embarrassment. She didn't understand a thing. If Saoirse had spoken Mandarin, she could have understood some of it, but Ye Xiuqiang spoke in a dialect so different from the Chinese she'd learned that she didn't understand a single word. "Ask if you can eat Sichuan cuisine." Saoirse nodded quickly, her hair swaying. "Yes, I can." It sounded like she was saying she was a big eater, and Saoirse's accent was so funny that Yukai couldn't help but chuckle. If it were in Chengdu, Saoirse would have been furious with Yukai for that laugh, and she definitely wouldn't have been as obedient as she was now. Chapter 437 Family Banquet. Li Meili had imagined 1,000 scenarios for meeting her daughter-in-law, but nothing could have predicted the current situation. She'd originally had plenty of questions, but now she felt completely lost. How could she ask a foreigner whose Chinese wasn't good? From what the woman had said before, Li Meili had assumed she could speak Chinese, but she couldn't understand such a simple sentence. Oh, how would she communicate in the future? Saoirse sat uncomfortably on the sofa, then suddenly thought of something. She quickly said to Li Meili, "Auntie, I brought some gifts from my hometown for you and Uncle." She stood up to retrieve the things she'd brought in, pulling out a sweater wrapped in a white box and handing it to Li Meili. "This is a handmade Irish sweater, very warm, perfect for now. And this bottle of wine, known in Ireland as the King of Wine, is for Uncle." It was unclear how long Saoirse had practiced these 2 sentences, but they were the 2 sentences she pronounced most clearly. Even after a year of Chinese practice, and with no time for dedicated study, Yukai was impressed that Saoirse could speak so well. After all, not everyone has such a gift. People often praise someone for their knowledge of many foreign languages by saying they're fluent in 8. But Yukai wasn't just fluent in multiple languages, he was at a native-level proficiency, the kind he could write a book about. If Yukai were willing to spend days on a round-the-world flight, specifically stopping in countries he had never been to, he might become the most linguistically proficient person in the world by the time he returned to China. Hearing Saoirse's words, Li Meili was once again bewildered. "Do you speak Chinese or not? You say you don't speak it, and you speak clearly. But you say you do. You don't even understand when I ask you if you can eat Sichuan cuisine. What's the deal?" Thank you. Oh, this sweater is lovely. I knitted one like this for Yukai when he was little, and it's still at home. I still have one like this. Yukai asked. How could I not have it? Lee Mei frowned. I worked so hard to finish it, and you said it was itchy and wanted to give it away. I worked so hard to give it away, I can't bear to give it away, so it's all at home. Now I remember. My mother did knit a sweater for me, but the yarn she used, well, let's not talk about it. All sweaters like this are similar. Yukai's Icelandic sweaters also need lining inside. Yukai didn't know how others would feel when he wore the sweater inside, but he would definitely feel itchy. Seeing Saoirse take out her things, Yukai also opened his travel bag. It was filled with gifts sent back from Iceland. Originally, they were things he bought for his family during his travels, but now that he was going home for the new year, he was giving both gifts together. This saved him from having to think about what gifts to bring home for the new year. Yukai also brought the famous Icelandic sweater. He didn't bring back the one for his mother, but he could express it to her later if he had the chance. After all, Saoirse had given the sweater to his mother, so he would give this one to his father first. Yukai took out a red jewelry box, which contained a pearl necklace. This is for you. I brought it back from Iceland. I heard it keeps you warm. Lee Mei didn't know where Iceland was, but she knew Yukai had been living there for several months. She quickly took it and said, "Oh, my son bought me a gift. How nice. What a joke. Didn't I bring you gifts when I went home before?" Watching Yukai and Lee Mei's loving interaction, Saoirse's nervousness gradually eased, her expression brightened, and she smoothed her half-long blonde hair. Saoirse whispered to Yukai, "Why can't I understand what your parents are saying? Is this your Chinese dialect?" Irish English is actually a dialect, and many British people can't understand the Irish language, so Saoirse speculated that Yukai's parents spoke a Chinese dialect. She had heard Josihu speak similar language when she was communicating with her, but most of the time, Yukai's friends spoke Mandarin. This is the local Sichuan dialect. At this point, Yukai said to his mother, "Saoirse doesn't understand our Sichuan dialect, she only speaks a little Mandarin." "Oh, is that so? No problem. We speak Mandarin very well, too." Typical Trump. But to Saoirse, it sounded much easier than hearing the Sichuan dialect directly. After understanding this, Saoirse felt relieved, wanting to pat her heart to release the tension she had previously felt. "Saoirse. Yes, my name is Saoirse, Catherine Saoirse. How did you and Yukai meet?" "We, at?" She scratched her head. "How do you say potato festival in Chinese?" She had forgotten it instantly. Yukai said, "It's an Irish festival. Saoirse is Irish. She was invited to perform at the festival, and that's where we met." "Yes, a festival, the potato festival." "Oh, so where are you going to live?" "In China," Yukai said. Although they hadn't considered a wedding date, the two had already discussed Saoirse's life after graduation. She would learn Chinese over the next few years and see if she could come to China as an exchange student. After graduation, Saoirse would begin her music career in China. Saoirse had always dreamed of becoming a violinist and had already released her first instrumental album, gaining some fame in Europe and the United States. But she couldn't compare to Yukai. Even in Ireland, more people knew Yukai than Saoirse. The allure of Harry Potter was far greater than just a few songs, and Yukai was now an internationally renowned writer. Yizukiang came out carrying a dish and saw several people still chatting on the sofa. He said, "What are you still talking about? Grab your bowls and chopsticks and get ready to eat. Saoirse, come sit down and try what I've cooked." The last part was in Mandarin. Although he was busy cooking in the kitchen, he was listening to the conversation outside and knew that Saoirse didn't understand the dialect. Yizukiang spoke standard Mandarin. He was, and still is, an entrepreneur, often traveling to other provinces on business. His command of Mandarin was a valuable asset to his company. It was raining, so even at noon it was still a bit dark. Yukai flicked on the lights in the dining room. Under the soft glow, the rectangular table finally had room for four. Lee Mei's face was filled with satisfaction, as if she were thinking of her future as a grandchildren. Staying home was too boring. She didn't really want to play cards, and square dancing wasn't as fun. She placed a piece of pork chop in Saoirse's bowl and said, "Come on, try this. Auntie picked it up at the market early this morning. It's so fresh. See if it suits your taste." "Thank you, Auntie." Saoirse took a bite, and the chopstick slid from her chopsticks into her bowl. She knew how to use chopsticks, But she wasn't as skilled with a knife and fork, so she ate very slowly with them. Chapter 438. What a clever little guy. Although there were only 4 of them, the table was still overflowing with dishes. There was taro chicken, sour radish and duck soup, braised carp, braised eggs, sweet and sour pork ribs. Considering Saoirse was a foreigner, Yukiang didn't cook anything particularly spicy. The braised carp was the only dish on the table that was particularly red. Yukai carefully picked out some boneless fish for Saoirse. The Irish don't eat carp, so Yukai thought it would be good for Saoirse to try. Lee Mei-lee looked at Saoirse and liked her more and more. She'd gone to bed last night wondering what Saoirse would be like, whether she'd get used to being with Yukai, and whether there would be any rifts in their lives. But now it seemed they were quite compatible. My son is so handsome, most women wouldn't be good enough for him. A few women in the neighborhood, seeing Yukai's looks, kept trying to introduce him to someone, but Lee Mei-lee had always managed to smooth things over. Don't even consider the girls you're introducing to me. You're just trying to get your hands on a swan's flesh. What a beautiful young lady, Lee Mei-lee praised. My son is so lucky to have you with him. Saoirse beamed and said, thank you. Yukiang added, he's a college student, well-educated and well-mannered. Not bad, but he's a little thin. He needs to eat more meat. Try this chicken, stewed in a pressure cooker until tender and melt in your mouth. Yukai looked at his old father. Is this my dad? He looks completely different than before. Could it be that during these months in Iceland, he's become a kinder father? What triggered him? Yukiang smiled, but suddenly noticed Yukai's dazed expression and his face turned grim. Why are you looking at me? Go, wash some fruit for Saoirse. Oh. Yukai stood up to wash the fruit. Reassurance settled in. This was my dad, he hadn't changed. As soon as Yukai left, Saoirse panicked, completely unsure of what to do. She had completely forgotten all the advice she'd read online on how to deal with parents who have a bad relationship with a man. Seeing that Saoirse hadn't eaten anything since the beginning, Yukiang said, don't be shy. Eat more, eat as much as you can. He thought this girl was good in every way, except that she was a little thin. She needed to eat more meat to fill up. Saoirse suddenly had an idea. She didn't know where she'd seen it online, but it said that if you have parents who like to cook, you should eat more vegetables and praise their cooking skills. That way, they'll like you. Saoirse suddenly perked up at this thought. I'm not a weak eater. Thank you, uncle, she replied with a smile. In the kitchen, Yukai was washing grapes. He liked to pick all the grapes and put them in a bowl. That way, he could just pick them up one by one and eat them without having to go out of his way to pick them. A lazy way of eating. There was a large green mango in the refrigerator that had been there for a while. Yukai took it out, peeled it, and took out the core and cut the flesh into small pieces. By the time he packed the 2 fruits and carried them to the living room, most of the dishes had been eaten. Saoirse burped, with a sweet and sour pork ribs sauce on the corner of her mouth, and she kept saying, delicious, delicious. Yukai was glad that the Irish don't eat carp, otherwise, before he even started eating, all the vegetables would be gone after washing the fruit. Lee Mei-lee saw Yukai coming out and said expressionlessly, Yukai, have you washed the fruit? Go and scoop a bowl of rice for the girl. She looks so hungry. What kind of food do you eat abroad? The 2 elders were shocked by the way Saoirse ate. Yukai felt a bit embarrassed. He touched Saoirse's leg under the table to remind her, smiling awkwardly. That's about it. She doesn't usually eat much. It must be because the food you cooked was so delicious. Saoirse nodded, delicious, delicious. Yukai wiped the black sauce from Saoirse's mouth with a napkin and whispered in English, you're eating too fast, aren't you? Are you hungry? Saoirse replied, I heard that Chinese people like to see guests enjoy their cooking. I'm trying to put that into practice. And uncle's cooking is really delicious. Okay, as long as you like it. Yukiang was congratulating himself on having cooked a few more dishes, otherwise this would be really awkward. He probably hadn't expected Saoirse to complain about the sheer number of dishes and how she couldn't finish them all at once. If it were just him and his wife, it would take 2 or 3 days, and they might not even finish it all. Young people these days really love to eat. But that was a good thing. Eating more would help them gain weight. He thought both Yukai and Saoirse were a bit thin. Too fat wasn't good, but neither was too thin. If they were out of shape, they would often get sick. Saoirse, having eaten too much, left the table early. The remaining dishes took over half an hour to prepare, and most of the dishes were clean and ready to be washed in the sink. Yizukiang said, "You guys can go out and have fun this afternoon. Our sweet city might be small, but it still has a lot of great places." He knew young people these days preferred to be together in person, not just shopping or watching TV with their parents, so he asked Yukai to take Saoirse out. His son had been traveling extensively since he resigned, sometimes staying in one place for months at a time. Saoirse was attending university in her own country, so they didn't see each other much throughout the year. So he wanted to give them more time. The larger the city, the later people tend to marry, because the 20s and 30s are the peak years for career advancement, and getting married during that time is too stressful. Moreover, cities are large, and the relationship between two people is not very stable, so people in big cities generally get married late. But it is different in third and fourth tier cities like Xiancheng. There are many people getting married at the age of 20. People like Yukai, who turn 25 after the Chinese New Year, are considered to be married very late in Xiancheng. He hopes that Yukai and Saoirse's relationship can stabilize and they can get married sooner. Moreover, this girl is so satisfying no matter how he looks at her. Although she is a foreigner, she is not as arrogant as the foreigners he has met before. Although she eats a lot, what is the lack of food in the current family? Yukai heard what his father said, nodded and said, "Okay, I'll take her downstairs for a walk first." "Go." Yizukiang said. Li Meili came out of the kitchen and said, "Bring an umbrella with you. Although it's not raining much now, I'm afraid it will get heavier soon. It's been raining every day recently." "I know. There's an umbrella in the car. I'll go get it." As soon as the door was closed, Saoirse put away her smile, took a long breath and patted her chest. "I didn't make any jokes, did I? What were you secretly talking about just now? What did my uncle and aunt say about me?" Yukai said jokingly, "Them? They said you are a glutton." "Glutton? What does glutton mean?" "It means I like to eat very much." Saoirse jumped up with her fists clenched and raised her hair, shouting excitedly, "Oh, then I am a glutton. I like to eat Chinese food. It's so delicious. I am a glutton. Yes. Let's go shopping. I also want to give my aunt a necklace." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 439 Right and Wrong. Chengdu is rife with commercial and pedestrian streets, and the streets of Xiancheng don't offer much in the way of character. But there's still a touch of the charm of old streets and alleys, with rain-soaked bluestone slabs beneath the eaves of imitation antique buildings. Walking down the street, they suddenly encountered a peculiarly shaped sprinkler truck, resembling a cement mixer truck on a construction site, its massive body dragging a white cylinder shaped like a cannon. Yukai quickly dragged Saoirse to a nearby shop to take shelter. The small shop instantly filled with 5 or 6 people, all seeking refuge from the flood waters. Summer might be fine, but this was winter. Only those who have experienced getting drenched know what it's like. Saoirse kept glancing outside the shop and asked, "Your country still has sprinkler trucks like this? So scary." "It's a mist cannon truck, used to purify the air. Xiancheng's air quality is much better now, and this mist cannon truck has definitely played a significant role." The shop owner coughed twice and said, "Young man, you speak English quite well. Do you want to buy a small gift for your girlfriend? Is this girl American?" Yukai smiled at the owner but said nothing, looking around the shop. It was a small jewelry store, selling mostly hairpins, earrings, necklaces, but they weren't expensive. Judging by the packaging, the most expensive item was no more than 20 yuan. There were also expensive items, music boxes, crystal balls, wind chimes. "You sell a wide variety of things here." "Oh, that's okay. It's a gift shop, and it's near a school, so we only sell inexpensive trinket items." The owner took a music box off for another customer and said to Yukai, "Handsome, how about buying a music box for your girlfriend?" Yukai took down a music box. On top of this music box was a crystal ball, with a praying chibi angel inside. Below the crystal ball was a pink tower. Flipping a switch would cause colorful lights to appear inside the crystal ball, small snowflakes to fly around, and the angel to spin in place. The music from Canon played as well. "How cute," Saoirse said. Do you like this one? It's battery powered. Let's get a music box that makes sounds by twisting the spring. Okay. Saoirse picked through the row of music boxes, examining each one. Finally, she chose a natural wood-colored box. She opened it to reveal a glass window with a spring protruding from it. Under the glass were delicate gears. After turning the spring, the song Castle in the Sky began to play. Saoirse loved it and kept turning the spring. After Castle in the Sky ended, the melody of Little Lucky followed. The shopkeeper said, "This box has 15 songs. What do you think? Buy one." "You've asked me 3 times already," Yukai said, speechless. "You're a big star, so I'd love to talk to you more. But I didn't realize you had a girlfriend." "Big star, your girlfriend seems to like it. Buy her one. It's only 188 yuan. I bought it. Haha, I'll just charge you 180 yuan. Go for it. Don't worry about what the internet says. There are too many trolls." Yukai was confused and wanted to ask more questions, but he realized several people had already noticed him. So he quickly paid for the music box and left the store. That's how celebrity travel works. Once the first person notices you, there's a second, a third, and then an avalanche. If too many people discover you in Sweet City, you won't be spending the new year at home this year. You'll have to spend it with the news media. While entertainment reporters aren't as annoying as they used to be, it's definitely not a decline. This is the era of self-media, where anyone with a smartphone is a journalist. It used to be a dozen people chasing one person with cameras, now it's a group filming you with their phones. The difference isn't that big of a deal. Carrying a bag, Yukai returned to the park downstairs. This is the place where Rain Shatters Jiangnan was originally played. In the summer, there were many birds and mosquitoes here. Now, in winter, the mosquitoes are almost gone, and the insects have burrowed deep into the soil, dormant. Most birds have flown south to the warmer climes. But the park hasn't lost its vitality. On the contrary, the absence of mosquitoes has attracted more residents. There are elderly people playing chess, elderly women wielding Tai Chi swords, children roller skating, and singers singing from a speaker. These singers are doing it purely for their own pleasure. Singing here wouldn't attract many people paying. One thing Yukai really likes about this park is being able to lean on the railing and look out at the river. Unfortunately, it's rained so much recently, and much of Sichuan has been hit by floods, turning the river a muddy yellow. It looks even more like the Yellow River, but the current is not as turbulent. Yukai found a place to sit. In the distance, a man in a straw hat was fishing, 8 fishing rods lined up in front of the railing. "Guess how many fish he caught?" Yukai asked. Saoirse looked at the many fishing rods and thought, there must be at least dozens of them. She confidently said, "At least 10 fish. Then I bet there aren't 10. Saoirse shook her head. "I don't believe it. With so many fishing rods, how could they not catch 10 fish? I'm going to go ask." Yukai pulled Saoirse down as she was about to get up and said, "Don't go. Let's see if he can catch any fish soon. I'm already hiding from people." They both fell silent. Yukai was beginning to miss Lake Thorning. During his time in Iceland, whenever he was in Reykjavik, he'd go there every afternoon to feed the swans and ducks. He knew them so well he even had names for them. He wondered if the swans would miss him. He couldn't count on the ducks, those idiots were much less intelligent than the swans. They just waited for food to come their way, waiting all day for tourists or locals to feed them bread. Yukai also wished there was a place like this where he lived. If you have nothing to do, just go over and sit down, feed the ducks. But after thinking it over, he decided not to. China has too many people. As the saying goes, a big forest has all kinds of birds. Some people would even catch carp in the park to eat. If they raised ducks, they would probably go crazy. Holding Saoirse's shoulder, Yukai suddenly remembered what the shop owner had said. Is someone trolling me again? He rarely browses Weibo and forums online anymore. Fame breeds gossip. Having been away from China for a few months, the number of people trolling him has decreased significantly. He just came back, and are they starting over again? Opening Weibo, he saw that his latest post had more comments than before. Protect, 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 is this what an international writer is? Someone who curses without using profanity. Protect, what did our little bear do to you? Curse him, what the hell did you write? Trashy writers are just trying to capitalize on the little bear's popularity. Yukai, holding his phone, was completely stunned. Black question mark JPG. Chapter 440 Fan Club. Some people in the comments were asking why this guy was so handsome. They were asking for someone else to follow. I beg you to stick with your old idols and stop messing with me. What the hell is going on? I've read quite a few comments, but they're all mindless attacks from people who criticize me. Judging by the age of the people who speak, they must be fans of a certain celebrity. But why are these fan club members targeting me? Until Yukai came across a comment that spoke for him. Brother Yi is a member of the WPSA and used to frequently post on Weibo about protecting the environment and animals. What does this have to do with your little bear thing? They're protecting animals, why are you jumping out and trying to make a name for yourself? A bunch of idiots. Who is Brother Yi? Who is that little third-tier celebrity? How can they even be in the same league? It turned out to be the polar bear picture he posted that had caused the trouble. I looked up information about the celebrity online. It's an idol who debuted this year, named Shuang. Because of her fair skin, her fan group is called Polar Bear. If she had posted this photo before, there shouldn't have been any problem. But recently, due to the idiotic behavior of some fans, this person's reputation has plummeted. Anxious fans, seeing any sign of trouble, assume someone is out to take down their idol. Yukai was simply being targeted. The incident even went viral, and while those in the entertainment industry defended him, they were completely unable to stop these overzealous fans. Their fan outcry led many to learn about a celebrity named Shuang, indirectly boosting their idol's profile and generating a massive influx of haters. There's a saying in the entertainment industry these days, haters are still fans, and they can make money too. Yukai thanked the people who spoke up for him and posted a Weibo post. This photo of a polar bear was taken in the Svalbard Islands in the Arctic 2 months ago and has been in my photo album ever since. A few days ago, I went to an aquarium and saw a polar bear trapped in a glass house. I felt a strong connection to this group, so I found the photo and shared it. This action may have irritated many people. I apologize, but I honestly don't know your idol. Sent. Yukai even wanted to add a line on his Weibo post. Sorry, I don't even know if your idol is a boy or a girl. This was the truth. If it weren't for this incident, Yukai wouldn't have bothered to research who this little bear was. After all, the idol stars that have emerged in recent years are all cut from the same cloth. Past stars mostly graduated from professional schools, like Peking Opera and Beijing Film Academy. These schools carefully screen their recruits, enrolling students based on a specific graduation play. For example, if the graduation play was Farewell My Concubine, some students in the class would look like Cheng Dai, others like Duan Xiaolao. With this in mind, many people would spontaneously recognize the characters of others. One looked like Juxin, another like Yuan Shiking, Na Kun, Zio Si. There were practically no identical faces. But now, idol stars, if they were to act, could play any role they could, and any role they couldn't play. Yukai still had complaints about this. After his first novel, Chinese Paladin, was published, a film and television company approached him to help with the script writing, but they demanded the lines be kept short. When asked why, they said it was because the actors couldn't memorize them. In the end, Yukai simply quit, letting them work on the changes themselves. Since then, Yukai has been scornful of idol stars who debuted through unconventional means. Now that they're blackmailing him, he's considered himself quite refined for not saying anything offensive. He posted on Weibo, feeling a bit better. In reality, no matter how violent these people get, it won't affect Yukai much. He doesn't hang out in fan circles. While writers have some ties to the entertainment industry, they don't rely on these fans to make money. He said to Saoirse, "Let's go back." Saoirse had been listening to Yukai all day, and now was no exception. She stood up immediately when Yukai said they were going back, but then she remembered that she had come out to buy a necklace for her aunt, and she still hadn't bought it. "I'm buying her a gift." Yukai shook the bag in his hand and said, "Isn't this it?" "Huh? Isn't this from you?" Saoirse stared at Yukai with wide eyes, as if to say another word and she'd strangle him. "Haha, of course it's for you, but I already gave you a gift today, so maybe next time." Carrying the music box in his left hand and holding Saoirse's hand in his right, he walked back to his parents' house. Suddenly, he felt like a winner. He always felt like this was what a good life should be like. Money in hand, a good girlfriend, and healthy parents. To have even one of these in one's life is already a blessing, and now he has them all. Isn't that a winner? WeChat rang twice on the way home. Wang Lei and Zhang Zixin sent messages to comfort Yukai. Zhang Zixin, I saw you posted on Weibo? They're so scary, like mad dogs. Brother, don't listen to them. You're great. Yikai? Yikai, are you comforting me? Zhang Zixin, yes. Yikai, I'm fine, don't worry. Their fuss won't affect me. Maybe even if they curse me, more people will buy my books, right? Zhang Zixin, that's right. This girl is so adorable. When we chat, Yikai always feels so cute that he wants to pinch her face. But looking at her recent photos, she seems to have lost weight. A few more acquaintances sent messages. Yikai went home and sat on the sofa, slowly replaying. His social life was simple. This was the first time he had encountered such a thing since becoming famous. So many people who knew him were worried. They knew that he cared deeply about the opinions of others. But they didn't know that he only cared about the opinions of ordinary people. These fans in the fan club twisted things into a big deal, making things that didn't happen. Yikai was actually worried about them. What if they never grew up? Yikai realized that most of these people were girls. If their tastes remained the same, would they also want handsome boyfriends? Would that mean many men would have to get plastic surgery first? After all, handsome people are a minority in this world. Most people are ordinary. First, respond to friends' concerns. Sun Liang sent a good news. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix is going to be sold. This is indeed good news. Otherwise, wherever you go, people will ask when the new book will be released. Yikai can only reply that it will be released soon. He doesn't know when it will be sold either. This is the publishing house's business. The manuscript has been handed over to them anyway. Chapter 441 I Didn't Laugh at You. 2 days later, Shang Lian posted an apology on Weibo to those affected and began to curb her fans. This made Yikai even more certain that this was all hype. As Yikai had said before, haters are still fans. Whether they're fans or haters, as long as someone attracts attention, that attention is essentially traffic. Why is it called the traffic era? Because traffic brings money. Capital's pursuit of profit has disrupted far more industries than just the entertainment industry. However, Yikai hadn't paid much attention to this matter in a while. He had been enjoying some rare time alone with Saoirse these days. After all, there weren't many free moments like this in a year. Many shops on the streets of Xiancheng were closed. After all, it was a city, and people from many surrounding towns and villages would come to Xiancheng to do business. During the Lunar New Year, most people would go home for the holidays, resulting in 2 or 3 out of 10 shops closing their doors. Chengdu would be even more terrifying, with 5 out of 10 shops closed. Saoirse wanted to set off fireworks, so Yikai took her to a small square he had often visited as a child. It was called the Music Square by the locals, and there was a school nearby. This school combines elementary, middle, and high schools, and is surrounded by many toy stores. Yikai attended elementary school here. During the Lunar New Year, some toy stores would stock a lot of fireworks, displaying them on wooden boards. Now, they're mostly fireworks, with fewer firecrackers. Seeing a familiar old shop, Yikai stopped and bent over to select fireworks from a stall. Holding a box of firecrackers, Yikai asked, "Boss, how much are these?" The owner, probably in his 60s, with graying hair and round reading glasses, glanced out and said, "These firecrackers, 2 yuan a box." These were 2 yuan now, compared to only 50 cents when he was a student here. Yikai said to Saoirse, who had followed him, "Take your pick. Pick whatever you find interesting. I'll go in and take a look." Okay. The shop's appearance hadn't changed. The walls were no longer pristine white, but had a worn, pale yellow hue. Shelves lined the walls with boxes of beautifully packaged toys. Despite the unassuming decor, the toys were quite interesting. From remote-controlled cars and airplanes, Transformers to Barbie dolls, there were even toy guns that fired BBs. The bullets were stored in transparent containers shaped like grenades. There were pistols, submachine guns, rifles. Yikai took one of the pistols out. The toys in these boxes had price tags. Yikai flipped it over and saw that a single toy pistol cost 80 yuan. Were these guns so expensive in the past? Yikai remembered using his pocket money to buy a toy gun that looked like an M4, also using BBs. It probably didn't cost that much, right? If he had to spend 80 yuan on a toy, he'd have felt bad. He couldn't feel the actual thing through the box, but it looked quite heavy. It didn't feel like the plastic I'd always used to. If it wasn't made of iron, then it must have been reinforced with iron blocks. After examining it for a moment, Yukai put it back. He actually liked these firearms, or perhaps every Chinese man liked these weapons. He wanted to wait for an opportunity to travel abroad and experience the feel of a real gun. Although China prohibits guns, many places abroad allow citizens to own guns. If Yukai travels, he could find a club to play with. Saoirse called out from outside, "I've chosen." A white plastic bag was filled with all sorts of firecrackers, thunder bombs, the legendary Big Mac, and many other novelty fireworks Yukai had never played with before. Yukai paid and carried the bag back to the car. "There are so many. It's not convenient here. Let's find a deserted place." "Of course, I'm also worried about hurting anyone." Saoirse rummaged through the bag and pulled out the largest firecracker, showing it to Yukai with great interest. "Look, this thing is huge, bigger than a bomb." Saoirse couldn't even hold half of it in one hand. "Wow, they're actually selling this. How dangerous is that?" After all, there's a school nearby. Minor children love these exciting things, and their awareness of dangerous objects is far less profound than adults. What if they set off such a dangerous weapon in the city? No wonder more and more cities are banning fireworks. Driving along the Tuojiang River toward the outskirts of Xiancheng, while Xiancheng lacked a large urban area, vast expanses of farmland loomed large. While these areas were farms, they were noticeably more prosperous than those in more remote areas. The houses were all well built. Some might be considered farmhouses here, but in the villa districts, they would be stunning villas. Xiancheng was surrounded by mountains, with only a few inhabited plains, so finding a deserted spot to properly set off firecrackers was challenging. He had no idea what village he had reached, only that it was still on the banks of the Tuojiang River. Most of the houses in this village were built on a single plot of land. A small road ran alongside the highway, leading directly into the village. A road to the right led to the Tuojiang River, where farmland also lay. Strangely, there were so few houses along the Tuojiang River, only 2 or 3 families. Yukai found a spot to park his car and gazed at the vast expanse of the river. There were no railings or stairs along the riverbank here. The Tuojiang River flowed right before our eyes, just like any other lake or stream, the difference being that it was far more majestic. Yukai put his arm around Saoirse's shoulders and said, "My dream is to live in a place like this, build a beautiful house, and wake up every day to see the rushing river." "How beautiful." An elderly woman picking vegetables overheard Yukai and laughed. Of course, her laugh was quiet, but Yukai still heard it and turned to look at her in confusion. "I don't even know you, what are you laughing at?" The elderly woman quickly said, "Sorry, young man, I'm not laughing at you. It's okay, did I say something wrong?" Seeing Yukai didn't mean to blame her, the elderly woman felt relieved and pointed at the Tuojiang River. "What if the water level rises near the river? The water was so high the past 2 months that it flooded all my land. And there are so many mosquitoes here in the summer, so few people live here. No wonder their houses were built on the other side of the road." But that's the difference in perspective. If Yukai were to build a house, he would definitely choose high ground. After all, it's a house with a view. If the land isn't high enough, what's the point of a house with a view if you can't see the view? So, he wouldn't be afraid of floods. And the mosquito problem can be solved with modern technology. Ultraviolet repellents, electronic repellents, biological repellents, sonic repellents. There are countless mosquito repellent devices on the market now. While these devices can't completely eliminate mosquitoes, they can easily protect a small area from them. Chapter 442 I have lived more than you have lived 10. Yukai brought a large bag of firecrackers and fireworks and said to the woman, "Can we set off some firecrackers and fireworks here for a while?" "Sure, sure. There's a drying down by the river. Go there and set them off as you please. Just don't leave them in the fields and no one will bother you." She glanced at Saoirse several times as she spoke. Foreigners were rare in Sweet City, and even rarer in this remote area. Foreign celebrities were usually only seen on TV. She found the girl more beautiful than even movie stars. Then she noticed the boy was quite good-looking, too. His face couldn't be seen clearly through the mask, but his eyes were beautiful, and they curved when he smiled. Were they a couple? Would their children look Chinese or foreign? Yukai led them over quickly. When buying firecrackers, the shopkeeper gave them some incense sticks. Yukai lit one with a lighter and handed it to Saoirse. "Remember to throw it after you light it. Just think of it as a grenade. Even though the explosion isn't very powerful, it's still pretty painful if you get close." Saoirse clenched her fists on her chest and bounced up and down on the ground, excited. I know, haha. She'd seen other kids play with this before. It's just light and throw, easy. She took out a firecracker, lit it with incense sticks, and tossed it into the distance. The firecracker smoked for a long time before suddenly snapping and releasing a small ball of sparks. So loud. So fun. Yukai stood beside Saoirse, watching her play, a smile on his face the whole time. Saoirse looked just like a child. Sometimes, watching others play can be even more enjoyable than trying it yourself. Tired of playing with firecrackers, Saoirse finally set her sights on the giant. A minute later, Saoirse carefully lit the fuse of the firecracker, then grabbed Yukai's hand and ran away. The fuse was long, and it burned for a long time before it finally reached the end. Suddenly, a huge, bright spark erupted from the giant, swirling and soaring over 2 meters high, resembling a tornado of sparks, dazzling and dazzling. It was actually a firework. Smoke, reeking of gunpowder, drifted everywhere, a slightly intoxicating smell that made Yukai want to light a few fireworks for fun. But it was daytime, otherwise the sight would have been even more beautiful. The whirring sound of the fireworks faded as the spinning fireworks grew fainter. But it wasn't over yet. The giant shot a reverse meteor into the sky, its red tail trailing flames. The bright light dimmed the sky. Looking down, the spinning firework had stopped. The meteor had used up its last bit of energy. With a bang, the meteor exploded in the sky. Faintly, the scattered fireworks formed a pink heart against a blue sky, but the image was fleeting, leaving behind a heart-shaped cloud. Both were stunned. Yukai had never seen fireworks so beautiful before. I didn't know fireworks could be this beautiful these days, Yukai whispered. Saoirse sighed, what a shame. We should have set off these fireworks after dark. It's hard to see them clearly even in the daytime. Yukai smiled, took Saoirse's hand, and pointed at the clouds. It's beautiful now, too. Look at the heart-shaped cloud. If it were night, you wouldn't be able to see anything. Nighttime fireworks are beautiful but fleeting, while daytime fireworks, while a little blurry, leave a clear imprint. You always have a point. The two continued to play with the fireworks. There was enough for them to entertain themselves for half a day. Fortunately, they were far from the city, otherwise the security would have come to chase them away. No park or community would let you set off firecrackers for 2 hours. By the time they got home for dinner, it was dark. Dad and Yukai returned at the same time. Yukai hadn't even closed the door by the time Yizuki got home. One look at Yukai and Saoirse's attire told him they'd been out all day. He said, somewhat angrily, you're the chairman of the company, and you don't care about anything, okay? Oh, well, I don't think I'm capable enough yet. Haha, I need you to work harder, Dad. Yukai hurried over to help Dad sit on the sofa, pressing his shoulders. The shares were held by Yukai and his uncle, and Yukai held the most, yet did the least. Dad, on the other hand, was practically working for Yukai, even without pay. After waiting for Dad to calm down, everyone sat down to eat. Today, Lee Mei cooked. The fish soup, simmered for 3 hours, was incredibly delicious, and Saoirse raved about it. Time slipped by. New Year's Day was quickly approaching. The biggest difference this year was that the large round table could accommodate 10 people, Yukai, his uncle, and the sisters Lee Shiki and Lee Shike. Yuzuman didn't come. In fact, every time she came to Sweet City, she'd send the 2 sisters over. She usually didn't stay for dinner. The 2 girls were getting more familiar with their families, but they still hesitated to talk to Yukai. After all, they'd only met a few times, and Yukai was a big star. Saoirse was very fond of the 2 girls. Lee Shike was about her age, and after the Lunar New Year, she often took her out shopping. Girls make friends easily, they hit it off after just one meeting, and they become sisters. Men, at least, have to share a meal and a few drinks. The 2021 New Year was spent amidst this bustle. Compared to last year, the Yi family was truly bustling this year. With the addition of Lee Shiki and Lee Shike, and Yukai bringing his girlfriend, the atmosphere was instantly different. Lee Mei, though her Mandarin wasn't great, still chatted with Saoirse daily in perfect trump. She was deeply obsessed with the question of when Yukai and Saoirse would marry and have children, often asking questions that left Saoirse blushing and speechless. At night, he began to bully Yukai, venting his frustration. After the 10th day of the first lunar month in Xiansheng, Yukai and Saoirse would return to Chengdu. Saoirse needed to go back to Ireland, and Yukai also wanted to visit Iceland to see some friends, then head south to Egypt and the Sahara Desert. He still had an interest in traveling. He was afraid that when he got older, or when Saoirse graduated from university and came to China, he wouldn't be in the mood to travel, so he wanted to see more places now. When he finally settled down, Yukai could proudly say to others, "Hey, I've lived more lives in one lifetime than you have in 10. Lee Meili was the most upset about having to leave after living at home for the better part of a month. She had been feeling down for a few days before learning about this. Before leaving, Yukai hugged his mother. "Don't worry, in 2 years I will build a big house in Chengdu or other beautiful cities, and take you all to live here. Then I won't travel around anymore, and will accompany you to dance square dance and play mahjong." "Bah, why are you such a young guy dancing square dance with us? Come on, go and be your kite and fly everywhere." Yukai laughed and patted his mother on the back. The elevator opened. Yukai took Saoirse's hand and walked towards the elevator, turned around and waved to his mother, thinking to himself, why not get married and have children soon? Mom is really too lonely. But this is not just his own problem. He looked at Saoirse, who was next to him, with the same worried look on her face. This girl is only 20 years old and is still studying. She will have to wait a few more years. Chapter 443 Return to Iceland. After a night's sleep in Chengdu, the two arrived at the airport early the next morning. The rush wasn't just to get Saoirse back to Ireland. There was another, more important development. Kelly was getting engaged. It was Kelly Grover, whom Ji Qing had met in Iceland and who worked at the tourism bureau with him. Surprisingly, Kelly was still single when Yukai left Iceland. Did Kelly meet a stranger and get engaged during that month? Yukai didn't ask further, as it's possible the girl already knew Kelly. But it was good news. Love can make a person more cheerful and optimistic, and it can also mature and stabilize a playful person, and Kelly was just that kind of person who loved all kinds of fun. "Going to Iceland with you?" Saoirse was a little surprised. She'd only known Yukai was in Iceland for business, but she hadn't realized he was bringing her along. She'd assumed he'd transit in England before returning to Ireland while Yukai went to Iceland. "A friend's engagement, of course I have to take you along. Otherwise, everyone's in couples, and I'm all alone. That wouldn't be right. Bringing you along is also about opening their eyes, showing them what beauty is." Saoirse blushed. "What are you talking about? How can I tell anyone about this?" Although it was a bit of a joke, Saoirse was indeed very beautiful, much prettier than some European and American celebrities on TV. But that could also be due to her youth. Being young is an advantage, after all. As for the future, who cares? Many European and American women lose their figures after marriage, but that's not inevitable. Why don't those celebrities change so dramatically? Ultimately, it's a matter of personal preference. The living environment in China is different from that in Europe and America. In Western countries, there are fast food restaurants on every corner. When you're in a certain environment, you automatically blend in. Healthy food and diets are rare abroad. It's all about fast food, which is contributing to the increasing obesity problem in these developed countries. Foreigners who come to China don't need much time, just 2 or 3 years, and by the time they return, they barely recognize their own country. After boarding the plane, no matter how much energy he had, he couldn't release it. He would spend a long time on the plane. The flight attendant closed the windows for the business class passengers and dimmed the lights. Yukai was drowsy and ready to sleep when he suddenly felt a soft and gentle body gradually lying next to him. The scent of perfume was familiar. He opened his eyes and saw it was indeed Saoirse. "Why are you here? It's hard to sleep on a plane. It's more comfortable next to you." Hearing this, Yukai was touched. He shared his blanket with Saoirse, hugged her close, and whispered quietly. Only after Saoirse fell asleep did Yukai fall asleep. Due to the time difference, it was not until 5 p.m. when he arrived in the UK, but it was already dark in London. He transferred to Iceland at the airport. Iceland's polar night lasts until December. After December, the daylight increases a little each day until the polar day arrives. Ji Qing and Kelly had always wanted to let Yukai see the true polar day, but obviously they were unsuccessful. Ireland is close from the UK, but Iceland still has a long flight ahead of it. The two spent the flight playing silly games until the plane finally landed. From a distance, Yukai could see Ji Qing and her husband, Andre, arriving to greet him. Yukai stepped forward, cheerfully giving them a deep hug. Turning back, He called Saoirse and introduced her. This is my girlfriend, Catherine Saoirse. Just call her Saoirse. Ji Qing looked at Saoirse curiously and said with a smile, nice to meet you, beautiful lady. I've been telling you about you for a long time, but until I met you, I realized you're even more charming than I'd imagined. You're beautiful too. You must be trying to comfort me, ha ha ha, but I like to hear it. Everyone got in the car, and Andre and Ji Qing sat in the front. The roads were light, and few Icelanders traveled at night. Most stayed home to rest and sleep. During the polar night, time seemed imperceptible. Everyone could sleep any time, and waking up would be to darkness anyway. Even those who didn't want to sleep stayed at home, and few drove out. During the polar day, however, many sleepless Icelanders drive to various scenic spots. The sun is still high in the sky during the early morning hours, but most tourists are asleep. Curious, Yukai asked, who is Kelly's girlfriend? She's so fast, isn't she? She's a friend I've known for a long time. She works as a nurse on the morning shift at the hospital. She's so cute, you wouldn't even know she's 26, and she's a native Icelander. Many Icelanders I know marry foreigners. Andre, quite knowledgeable about this, laughed heartily and said, because it guarantees the person isn't a relative, and the resulting baby will be smart. That being said, but Yukai still found it odd. Imagine neighbors in an Icelandic neighborhood going out to buy groceries and meeting someone from the Netherlands on the left and Thailand on the right. Perhaps with just one dance, the members of their dance troupe could form the United Nations. Yukai leaned over the passenger seat's headrest and asked, what's that nurse's name? Do you have a photo? Let me see it. Ji Qing glanced at Andre, and they both shook their heads. We don't really like taking pictures, so we didn't take any. Her name was Tabitha. It sounds nice, but not as nice as mine. Ji Qing said, her face in her hands. She wasn't one to use an English name, forcing all her colleagues to call her Ji Qing. Yukai took her obsession with her given name for granted. The biggest difference Yukai noticed after arriving in Iceland from Chundu was the temperature. It wasn't getting colder, but slightly warmer. Although Iceland sometimes experiences heavy snow, it's dry and doesn't absorb heat from the air like semi-dry snow. The warm geothermal heat ensures that the temperature never drops below zero. They chatted, not paying much attention to the time, and soon the car arrived in Reykjavik. Ji Qing asked, did your family retire? How about staying at my place tonight? The heating was just reheated a few days ago, and it's very comfortable. No thanks, Yukai said. There are hotels everywhere on the main street of Reykjavik. There is no need to go to Ji Qing's house to trouble him. Besides, 4 people are far less comfortable than 2 people. Any couple needs their own private space. Back home, the family's surgery was successful and they are recovering well. Thank you for your concern. Chapter 444, 3 Couples Travel Plans. The dim glow of streetlights illuminated the road ahead in the darkness, and the straight road ahead looked like US Route 50 in the night. The moss, so revered by Icelanders, was now covered by a blanket of snow, its original appearance no longer visible. The car drove on this road for 2 hours. Entering Reykjavik's main road and taking in the surrounding scenery, Yukai felt as if he had never left. It was exactly the same as when he left. In the darkness, the colorful lights in the windows of the surrounding houses made Yukai feel warm. This main street actually has a name. Its real name should be Laundry Street, which is the Chinese translation. It's actually a street where people used to go to wash clothes, and it's been used ever since. Calling it Laundry Street is also acceptable, perhaps that's why they always call it Main Street. After dropping them off at a hotel near the church, Ji Qing said, how about we come visit you tomorrow morning? Saoirse, you've probably never been to Iceland, right? Want to see the geysers? Geyser. It's a spring. Every few minutes, it gushes out a very high column of water. Usually, it's over 10 meters high, and sometimes it's dozens of meters high. Sounds interesting. Is it a natural fountain? Saoirse was very interested, she had heard of such places before. Yes, of course it's natural. Ji Qing spoke English very fluently, so at least he had no problem communicating with Saoirse. Fortunately, Saoirse's Irish accent wasn't strong anymore, otherwise Ji Qing wouldn't have been able to hear what she was saying. Yukai stepped forward to interrupt. Isn't it tomorrow Wednesday? Aren't you working? Of course I'm taking a day off. Of course I have to take a day off to welcome friends. It's okay. Some time ago, One of our colleagues took a half-month leave and went to other countries to bask in the sun. Won't his salary be deducted? Ji Qing laughed and said, Yukai, you must remember that this is Northern Europe, Iceland. Haha, let's go. See you tomorrow. Saoirse waved quickly. See you tomorrow. The car roared away. Saoirse turned around and looked at Yukai and said, your friend is so interesting. What's her name? I didn't hear clearly just now. Ji Qing. Ji Qing. Pronounce it more strongly. Ji Qing. Ji Qing. Yes, if she knows you will pronounce her name tomorrow, Ji Qing will definitely be very happy. I know, Ji Qing, Ji Qing. Followed by a little girl who kept muttering, Yukai entered the hotel and booked a room, hoping that the hotel would not use water from the tap to pretend to be mineral water. Almost all buildings in Iceland are short, and this hotel is no exception. It's only 3 stories, but the facilities are very new. I turned on the heater and took a bath in the bathroom. When I came out, the room was already as warm as summer. Saoirse had already stripped down to her underwear. Want to shower too? Of course, get out of the way, I'm scorching hot. Haha, you can turn the heat down a bit, I'm just used to this. Yukai said as he adjusted the heat to a comfortable setting before settling into bed and playing with his phone. Back to Iceland again, what a surprise. Originally, Yukai had planned to go straight to Egypt, so this trip to Iceland was quite unexpected. But he wouldn't stay for more than a few days, as Kelly's engagement was in 3 days. He searched the Icelandic internet on his phone and checked the latest news. Well, tomorrow I'll be Icelandic again. Saoirse crawled into bed and saw Yukai grinning idiotically at the screen. She stroked Yukai's abs and asked, what are you laughing at? Working out. I'm trying to act like an Icelander, haha. Ji Qing arrived early the next day. When Ji Qing called Yukai, the sky was truly pitch black, with no stars or aurora visible. Although it wouldn't rain for the next 2 hours, Yukai felt it was certain to rain any later. Saoirse and I dressed and went downstairs. 4 people were already waiting for Yukai downstairs, Ji Qing and his husband, Andre, and Kelly and his future wife, Tabitha. Tabitha had a distinctly Nordic look, much like Saoirse, but more rugged. Most of Iceland's indigenous people are descendants of Vikings, the Nordic warriors who wore horned helmets and wielded axes. However, modern Icelanders have long lost the ruggedness of their ancestors, instead living a refined and free life. Tabitha had light blonde hair and small, yet piercing eyes. Perhaps it was because she was a nurse, her gaze was gentle, possessing a calming power. My good friend, you're finally here. Kelly laughed heartily and embraced Yukai. The 2 men punched each other in the back, but Kelly couldn't hold on any longer. He coughed twice and withdrew from this men's game. Tabitha also gave Yukai a gentle hug and said with a beaming smile, my name is Tabitha. Hello, Mr. Yi. Just call me Yi like them. If you're not used to it, you can call me Sean. I'm not like Ji Qing, who forces others to call me by my real name. Ji Qing was annoyed, hands on his hips, and said, then what's wrong with me sticking with my real name? My parents gave it to me, why should I change it? Humph, people like you just can't stand seeing other people's names being better than yours. Yes, you're right. Yukai didn't argue with her. In fact, Yukai felt that giving himself a different name would make it easier for friends to communicate, just like picking a nickname in China. The nickname didn't matter, it didn't affect his real name. The name issue was over, and everyone was busy discussing where to go. At this moment, everyone was like children, not at all like adults in their 20s or 30s. Saoirse's puzzled eyes flickered from Ji Qing to her boyfriend, then back to Kelly, who was also shouting. Oh my god, Yukai had only been here 3 months, and he was already an Icelander? Anyway, we can't go to the waterfall now. It's so cold, it's going to rain, and the waterfall is so far from the parking lot. Yukai insisted. After all, he thought it would rain soon. Iceland's weather was so unpredictable, and no one knew when the rain would come. The most important thing was that it was too cold right now. He was fine, but he was worried Saoirse wouldn't be able to handle it. Ji Qing, convinced by Kelly, no longer insisted on going to the geyser. Instead, she joined forces with Kelly to take Saoirse to visit Gelfus in winter and see the snow beside the waterfall. Ji Qing was so anxious that he even spoke in Chinese. Oh, just trust me, it won't rain, it's only snowing now, and your clothes won't get wet. It's only snowing. Yes, and it should be light by the time we get there. It will definitely be beautiful, I'm not kidding you, You'd better bring your camera. Of course you have to bring a camera, it's how I eat. Kelly heard that Yukai didn't object, and happily put his arm around Yukai's shoulders. Isn't the thing that eats the mouth also the thing that eats? I think you'll never lack food wherever you go, as long as you show off your handsome face. Chapter 445 Private Guide. Two cars drove along the highway, one in front of the other. Occasionally, a car would approach from the opposite direction. Behind them, the road was always empty, no one was passing them. In the darkness, all drivers drove slowly. Yukai sat in Andre's car, the passenger seat, with Ji-Qing and Saoirse behind him. Iceland's cars were right-hand drive, and Yukai, sitting on the left, felt like he was driving, which helped him focus. He finally shook off his sleep deprivation. It wasn't that he didn't get enough sleep, but rather that the long, dark night made Yukai feel like it hadn't ended yet. Although it was already 8 in the morning, it felt like 4 in the morning. In modern society, no one could wake up at 4 in the morning and truly be awake, right? It was nearly 11 when the car arrived at Gelfus, still dark. But by the starlight, the falls were clearly visible. They were still magnificent, as always. The water below, due to the slow flow, had begun to freeze over. But from a distance, a different scene unfolded. In the summer, the surrounding hills were bare, devoid of trees and grass. The last time I saw them, withered, yellow grass covered the mountains on either side of the waterfall. But now, with the recent heavy snowfall, the once barren mountains had suddenly become clad in a thick coat of snow, as if they'd bought themselves a precious coat of skin. Their entire aura had changed. Ji-Qing pointed to the mountain to the right of the waterfall and said, "That mountain is climbable. There's a rope running from the base to the top. We can use it to climb all the way up." "Have you ever climbed a snowy mountain?" "Yes," Yukai nodded. Saoirse pouted and shook her head. There weren't many snowy mountains in Ireland, and even if there were, Saoirse wouldn't have had the time to climb them. Ji-Qing smiled. "That's great. We can experience it now. Besides, the altitude isn't high, so it'll feel like a snowy mountain, but it won't be too tiring." Everyone got out of the car, and Kelly and the others came over, asking, "How's it?" "It looks pretty good, doesn't it?" Yukai gazed at the snow-capped mountains in the distance and nodded. Although it wasn't raining or snowing, the weather was still far from pleasant. An indescribably cold wind howled across the continent, forcing everyone to don down jackets and hats. There weren't many tourists. The last time Yukai visited, he couldn't find parking, but today, there were empty parking spaces everywhere, making it easy to find a spot. Hiking this mountain doesn't require extensive preparation, just bundle up and hike with a group. The route runs to the right of the waterfall, about 600 or 700 meters long, a short hike. From the foot of the mountain, you can see the peaks of the snow-capped mountains. While other snow-capped mountains require year-round snow to achieve their status, Iceland's mountains only need a few months of snow to become a truly stunning sight. The path, however, is a bit difficult to navigate. The snow, originally fluffy and tiring to walk on, was stable and comfortable. However, the repeated trampling of visitors has compacted it into a solid mass. Without this rope running from the base of the mountain to the summit, the climb would have been many times more difficult. After an hour's walk, daylight finally broke. The polar night was gradually fading. In about 3 months, Iceland would enter polar day, when the sun would be in the sky even in the wee hours of the night. With the sun shining down at dawn, the world became even brighter and clearer. Yukai hadn't climbed this mountain the last time he came here, but now, after a long effort, he found the view vaster. Iceland doesn't have many mountains to begin with, and from here, Yukai could even see the ocean in the distance. After a 15-minute rest, he headed back down the road. Yukai's ability to read the weather was even better than the local Icelanders. It was bound to snow heavily in an hour, so now was the perfect time to descend the mountain and drive back to Reykjavik. "Saoirse, it's been a great opportunity for you to come to Iceland, and this is how you're going to treat her? What are you planning tonight?" "We're planning a candlelight dinner at a quiet hotel." "Lamb chops?" Ji-Qing asked curiously. "Of course, I think this is the biggest surprise Iceland has given me, besides the culture. It would be great if we could do this farming in China. We'd definitely make a lot of money, but the colder parts of our country are at high altitudes, so I'm not sure if it'd work." Ji-Qing also said, "It's definitely not going to work. I actually thought that too." It was still early. After returning to Reykjavik, everyone gathered at Kelly's house. Ji-Qing and Andre bought a lot of ingredients at the supermarket downstairs for hot pot. Ji-Qing, of course, prepared the base. Yukai had been to Ji-Qing's house before, and her parents often sent her snacks only available in China, as well as several different hot pot bases. It was like a small Chinese supermarket. Soon, the six of them gathered around a steaming pot of hot pot broth, bubbling with red chilies. Yukai said that after Kelly's engagement ceremony, he would go to Egypt and see the Sahara Desert. Ji-Qing asked curiously, "Where exactly is the Sahara Desert? Is it next to Egypt?" "Almost. It's very big, spanning several countries, but the Sahara we usually refer to is next to the Atlantic Ocean." However, when talking about the Sahara Desert, Kelly's face became serious. He scratched his curly hair and said, "Do you want to cross the desert? I have this idea, but I have to wait and see when I get there." Crossing the desert is not as dangerous as before. Although it still requires a lot of hardship, Yukai feels that it is worthwhile to endure a little hardship to get such a rare experience. Saoirse asked in surprise, "You want to cross the Sahara Desert?" "It's just an idea, but Kelly, how did you know I wanted to cross the desert?" "If anyone else said they wanted to see the Sahara, I'd think they just wanted to see the desert, but if it was you, I think you probably wanted to cross it." Yukai shrugged and smiled helplessly. "It seems you know me well, Kelly. Why are you so serious? Crossing the Sahara Desert isn't dangerous these days. You can drive all the way across. What are you worried about?" "I'm not worried about the Sahara, but the surrounding countries are not peaceful. It would be very dangerous for a Chinese person to go there." "I won't put myself in danger, don't worry." Yukai cherished his life. If he had to go through a dangerous place, he would definitely join a large group. His dream was to leave his name in history, like Du Fu and Li Bai, who are still mentioned after thousands of years. This dream had not yet been realized, and dying now would be too unfair. Kelly took a bite of the beef in the hot pot, stood up, and found a phone book with many phone numbers. He pointed to one and said, "Write this number down. If you want to contact the security team in West Africa, you can call him. He used to work at the Icelandic Tourism Bureau and is now a guide in North Africa." What a pleasant surprise. Yukai hurriedly wrote down the number. Although he might not need it, if he needed to contact the bodyguard, it would be more reliable to get an introduction from an acquaintance. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 446 Cairo Airport. In reality, Kelly and Tabitha could have gotten married right away. Although Kelly was a foreigner, he had lived in Iceland for a long time and worked for the Tourism Bureau, where the salary and flexibility were excellent. His situation was definitely excellent. She was a nurse at an Icelandic hospital. Her job seemed stable, and after getting married and having children, Tabitha could stop working at the hospital and focus on raising the children at home. So, ever since arriving in Iceland, Yukai had been thinking they should just get married right away. But Kelly clearly had her own considerations. The engagement ceremony took place at a church 30 kilometers outside Reykjavik. Only upon arriving did Yukai understand why they had decided to get engaged first, as Kelly's family couldn't come to Iceland for the time being. The priest muttered a low prayer while Yukai and Saoirse watched from a distance. Not many people were in attendance. There were a few colleagues from the Tourism Bureau whose names he didn't recognize, but he had seen them many times, familiar faces who greeted each other on the streets of Iceland. Seeing this, Yukai also wanted to discuss engagement or marriage with Saoirse. But then he realized that after all their time together, he had never truly said "I love you." The night Saoirse and I confirmed our relationship, I seemed drunk and sang a song to confess my love. I must make it up to Saoirse when I propose or get married. Yukai said nothing, but simply hugged Saoirse tighter. Perhaps it hurt, for she raised her left hand and gently nudged Yukai in the ribs with her elbow. "What are you doing? Showing off your strength?" Hiss. "Is this a place where you can just fight? My heart went out to you, even wanting a grand and meaningful proposal." Now, Yukai felt that his ability to tolerate Saoirse was a blessing from Saoirse's past life. The two of them were playing around. In the distance, Ji-Qing called him husband, and they turned back to watch the young couples flirting. "You're so young, Yi, only 25 this year. He'll be 25 after the new year," and his girlfriend is even younger, only 20. Just then, Kelly's favorite song came over the speakers, and the two exchanged rings to the music. From then on, Kelly was a fiancé. One less single young person in the world. The day after the engagement, Yurkai sent Saoirse back to Ireland, while he immediately flew non-stop from England to Cairo, Egypt. Past events were over, and a new journey awaited him. It was already early March, but it was still winter in Egypt, so the weather was still quite cool. However, this coolness was only relative to Egypt's summer. Cairo's daytime temperatures could reach 26 degrees Celsius, comparable to midsummer temperatures in many cities across China. The climate was also dry, with mostly sunny days and little rain. They arrived at Cairo airport at 3 p.m. Discover a new area, Egypt, and receive a 300,000 yuan reward, along with Arabic and English language skills. Discover a new map, Cairo, and receive a 30,000 yuan reward, plus 5 inspirations within 5 days. Yurkai, wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt and maroon sunglasses, stepped off the plane, pulling a white suitcase. The dry air transported Yurkai's spirit from Iceland to Egypt, thousands of miles away. The air in every city is different. Traveling extensively makes it easy to notice the differences in air quality brought about by climate. Yurkai had visited so many cities and countries, but he still felt the best air was in Cairo. While waiting in line for customs, Yurkai saw a few people ahead of him, seemingly a homeless person from another country. His clothes, though clean, were tattered and thick, and his suitcase was shabby, even with a broken wheel. It was not something most people would use for travel, let alone board a plane. The Egyptian customs officer frowned at the homeless man for a long moment before saying, "Passport, ticket." He pulled his passport and ticket from one of his pockets. After checking them, the customs officer allowed him to go through security, put his luggage on the machine, and proceeded through the gate. But Yurkai noticed that even after passing security, his luggage was still being opened and inspected. The security officer was even pinching and feeling the pockets of every piece of clothing. Was the inspection really that strict here? Or was it just him? The customs line moved slowly. Sometimes the customs officer would open the luggage for inspection, sometimes not, and Yurkai had no idea what they were using. When Yurkai arrived, the police officer said, "Please show me your passport and plane ticket." Yurkai pulled his passport and plane ticket from his bag. These two items must be carried with you when traveling abroad, not only for customs clearance, but also for the trouble of losing them. Seeing that he was Chinese, the police officer waved him off and let him pass, not asking him to open his suitcase, which made him feel relieved. There were no prohibited items in his suitcase. He had traveled abroad so many times and knew what he could and could not bring. But if his belongings were treated so roughly, Yurkai would definitely lower his opinion of Egypt. Egypt, like China, is one of the 4 ancient countries, and Yurkai had high hopes for Egypt before arriving. As soon as he passed through customs, a group of people, whose professions were unknown, rushed towards Yurkai and enthusiastically asked in English, "Sir, do you need a guide?" "Sir, I'm very familiar with Cairo. I can take you to the pyramids for only $50 a day. I only need $40, or the equivalent." Although Yurkai was somewhat tempted by the enthusiastic service, he knew that he had just arrived in Egypt and was carrying all his luggage and money for the trip, so he couldn't trust anyone he met. "Thank you, but I don't need it. I found a hotel." Yurkai followed the others leaving the airport and walked out, only relaxing once he got into a taxi. These people were as profitable as the people selling overnight stays outside the train station, and even more so. The driver asked, "Sir, where are you going?" "The Sari Carlton Hotel. The one by the Nile." "Yes." Yurkai turned his head and looked out the window at the Egyptian guides behind him who were still looking for clients. They wore Arab robes and looked relatively clean, but their weather-beaten faces did not give people a sense of security or trust. Now, he couldn't even imagine what kind of people would choose these people as guides. The driver slowly turned around at the airport. He saw Yurkai in the rearview mirror gazing at the group of local guides and said, "Did they see you too, sir?" "Yes, but I already have an appointment with a friend." Yurkai hadn't made an appointment with anyone, but the environment in Cairo made him wary. Airports in other countries might not be spacious and clean, but at least they felt comfortable. Cairo Airport, however, struck Yurkai as particularly chaotic and cluttered. It was always better to be cautious. Chapter 447 Golden City. The road from the airport to the city center was covered in endless yellow sand. As the car passed, The dust flew into the air like a sandstorm. The windows had to be rolled down to avoid the dust washing your face. The taxi driver, seemingly an experienced driver, drove calmly and took a sip of water from a nearby cup. It's right not to contact them. There's not much to see in Cairo, and even if you pay them, they'll only take you to the more famous places. They charge $20 a day per person, and only first-time tourists like you would pay them. Shouldn't it be $50? Yukai said nothing. The driver asked, "What country are you from?" "China." "China? Good, it's a very impressive country. Sir, you speak English very well. Not many people in Cairo actually understand English. You're lucky to have met me." Yukai didn't tell him he spoke Arabic. He smiled and went back to his phone, still checking the map. As China's national strength grows, its influence abroad is also growing. However, the most visible impact is in Europe and Africa. Americans still ignore you when you visit the United States. However, residents of tourist cities may have a somewhat biased perception of Chinese people. Many residents of tourist cities have the impression that Chinese tourists are wealthy, friendly, and honest. This makes sense when you think about it. No matter how arrogant someone is at home, they become more docile abroad. This situation may gradually disappear in the future. Currently, when bullied abroad, younger Chinese people don't choose to swallow their anger. Instead, they go to the embassy to complain. Many people view embassies as a forum for a country's international communication, but this is a misconception. When a person lives or travels abroad, the embassy effectively becomes their home. They can talk to their family about any issues, and they will try to resolve them. However, this doesn't apply to those who have changed their nationality. As the car pulled onto the elevated highway, Yukai's heart was in a state of panic. A two-lane road had been forced into four. Yukai could clearly see out the window that the distance between him and the other car was only a dozen centimeters. Definitely only a dozen centimeters. Any more than 20 centimeters, and you're out of luck. Is driving like this here? Is it? Driving like this is normal. We drive like this all the time. Do you think the cars are too close? Yukai watched the driver brush past a bidaya at high speed and nodded blankly. Yeah, too close, huh? It was a bit intimidating to ride here, especially with an experienced driver who could find an angle to squeeze into even the smallest gap. His driving skills abroad would probably make him a racing driver. It's pretty far already, the driver said. Any closer wouldn't be a problem. It just scares you tourists sometimes. There's not a single car in Cairo that doesn't have a scratch. I'm used to it. This is Cairo, my Chinese brother. Yukai fell silent. As I gazed at the buildings along the road in Cairo, most were low-rise and clad in yellow. The roads were also yellow, giving Cairo the appearance of a golden city. In one of the 1001 Nights, a father said to his son, "If you haven't seen Cairo, you haven't seen the world." Many would dismiss this as the whimsical boast of an unworldly country bumpkin, but a closer look suggests that perhaps the father wasn't referring to the city's grandeur, but rather its history. Egyptian civilization originated along the Nile River. The land our vehicles now traverse is actually the same path humans traversed during the dawn of civilization thousands or even tens of thousands of years ago. These primitive civilizations gave rise to the world we know today. Half an hour later, the car entered the new city. Cairo's traffic was truly unsatisfactory. Besides the congestion of vehicles, there were also countless jaywalkers. Yukai's apartment, an international five-star hotel located on the Nile River in Cairo's new city district, felt much like any other major city, the only difference being the pedestrians jaywalking. He was a bit too bold. After paying and getting off the bus, Yukai's hotel was not far away, and further ahead lay the famous Nile River. Cairo has a population of 20 million, comparable to that of China's first-tier cities, but only the 10% surrounding the Nile River boasts decent greenery. This area, now designated a new urban area, primarily caters to tourists from around the world. Looking at the Nile, Yukai's old urge to visit the river immediately struck him. However, carrying his luggage in hand and his laptop and camera on his back was inconvenient. He suppressed his thirst for water and checked into the Sri Carlton Hotel. Before coming here, Yukai had researched hotels in Egypt. Five-star hotels are categorized as domestic and international, and the difference between the two can be significant. Yukai planned to try out a different hotel in 2 days so he could share this information with his fans in his travelogue. Upon entering the hotel, Yukai felt a surge of cold air. The lobby had both air conditioning and a humidifier, creating a stark contrast to the weather outside. The guests who entered felt an indescribable sense of comfort. "Hello, I'm Yukai from China. I booked a room here online a day ago. Please show me your passport." Yukai quickly grabbed his room card and checked into a room on the 17th floor. The room was spacious, the bed comfortable, but the first thing Yukai did upon entering was turn on the air conditioner. It had a humidifier, a feature that was incredibly useful in Egypt. Yukai had discovered that in Egypt, there were no other essentials but sunscreen and moisturizer. This was Africa after all. Yukai had washed his face before disembarking, but after security and the half-hour drive, his skin was already incredibly dry. Any further exposure would likely lead to dryness and cracking. Yukai had been to southern Africa before, and while the air there was hot, it wasn't nearly as dry as in Egypt. He showered, applied moisturizer to his face, and searched his luggage for a large hat and long-sleeved shirt. Despite the high temperatures, clothing was essential to cover the skin. His reason was the same: he was afraid of sunburn. Opening the window of the hotel, the clear sky came into view. In front of me was the Nile River, which was not turbulent at all. It flowed quietly like an old woman, full of kindness to life. There were also some high-rise buildings on the opposite side of the river, but because Yukai lived on a high floor, he could still see the old city of Cairo in the distance. From this angle, Cairo really looked like a city made of gold. Thanks to Lan Xiao, the great book eater, for the rewards he gave me during this period. It's the end of the month, and I'm asking for monthly tickets, recommendation tickets, and rewards. I will add more in the next few days. Chapter 448, Cairo People's Coming of Age Ceremony. After putting his things away and redressing appropriately, Yukai prepared to go out for a stroll through the streets of Cairo. He took the elevator downstairs, past the lobby. "Mr. Yi." Someone called out to him. Yukai turned and saw it was the receptionist who had checked him in. "Hello, is there anything else I can help you with?" He assumed there was some unfinished paperwork he needed to complete. After all, this was a country he had never been to before, so it was normal to have some special procedures. "No, Mr. Yi, is this your first time in Egypt? It's best not to eat at street food. It's better to go to a larger restaurant, or we have a restaurant in our hotel." "Yes, I see." It was a reminder. Yukai smiled, nodded slightly in gratitude, and said, "Thank you for the reminder. I'll keep it in mind." After leaving the hotel, Yukai headed straight for the Nile River. Unburdened by luggage or a laptop, he only had a mirrorless camera with him to photograph the scenery in Cairo. The Nile River has long been a lifeblood of global civilization. Its waters flow to the feet of Cleopatra, Joseph, Moses, the Crusaders, and the ancient Egyptian pharaohs, all renowned African figures who bathed in its waters. Egyptians have always believed the river to be a divine gift. The presence of such a vast river on a dry, sandy continent is undoubtedly a sign of divine favor for this land, and it is precisely because of this that ancient Egypt, a civilization steeped in mystery, emerged. A platform has been built along the Nile River in the new city for visitors to gaze upon the river. Steps lead down to the river's edge, and when you stand at the railing, the Nile is only about a meter or two away. The river is bustling with yachts, fishing boats, and merchant ships. The old fisherman at the helm, smoking a cigarette, his eyes fixed on the water, as if he possessed a pair of eyes that could see through the Nile. The yachts are mostly filled with tourists, and the sound of laughter echoes over the Nile, imbuing this ancient and solemn river with a modern air. The river breeze blew, clinging to Yukai's clothes. The temperature was lower here, and because it was located by the river, the air on this terrace wasn't too dry. If one only looked at the area before them, one wouldn't mistake it for Egypt. Yukai snapped a few photos. Once the comfortable breeze had settled in, he turned and left to find a place to eat. The receptionist had warned Yukai against eating the usual Cairo food, but he'd been prepared. While he hadn't been to Egypt, he had been to Africa. He figured the food, however bad, couldn't be worse than Zambia. With a map of the area in hand, Yukai could roughly track his direction as he walked. If he strayed from the map, he'd take a note on his phone to ensure he didn't get lost. However, knowing both Arabic and English meant finding his way around Cairo wasn't difficult. He could always ask passers-by. Yukai was headed to the old city of Cairo, but he faced a challenge: crossing the highway. He'd never considered crossing a highway a problem in his life, but now he did. This road has 4 lanes, and there are 4 lanes going left on the opposite side, so to cross this road, You need to cross 8 lanes. But Yukai walked for a long time without seeing any traffic lights. The traffic was in a continuous stream, never stopping, just like the intersection in a busy street. The amazing thing was that these cars were still driving very steadily without a traffic light. And everyone who wanted to cross the road just crossed. To be honest, Yukai really didn't want to cross the road, but after walking a long way without seeing a traffic light, he was already wondering if there were no traffic lights in Cairo. But he had clearly seen one when he drove here. This is the new city. There was no other way. The further he walked now, the farther he would have to go back after crossing the road. Yukai could only follow the group of people who were about to cross the road and cross the wide road. They were a family of 5, a couple with 3 children. The oldest child was 12 or 13, and the 2 younger ones, a boy and a girl, were both under 5, held in their parents' arms. Seeing Yukai's nervousness, the man asked in Arabic, "Are you a tourist?" Yukai nodded, of course. He kept his eyes on the cars approaching from the right. There were so many of them that it made Yukai feel like he was playing some kind of avoidance game as he walked along the road. Fortunately, the cars were moving very slowly. The man, noticing Yukai spoke Arabic, smiled and said, "Don't worry, friend. You can walk across a road like this with your eyes closed. There's a saying I don't know if foreigners have heard, but the rite of passage in Cairo is to be hit by a car." Huh? Being hit by a car? What does that mean? Has everyone in Cairo been hit by a car? As he spoke, Yukai had already crossed the first road. Having completed half of his crossing, he felt a little relieved. It didn't seem too dangerous. Cars in the city drive very slowly, because people are constantly running out in front, so they keep their speed steady, just enough to stop with a single tap of the brakes. Another couple crossing the highway, both adults holding children, moved at a steady, even pace, crossing the lanes at a much more expert pace than Yukai. "Yes, haha, friend, are you an international student at Cairo University?" "No, I'm not a student anymore." "You speak Arabic quite well, then. It looks like this is your first time in Egypt, and you've been learning Arabic for a long time, right?" "Yes, since yesterday. I've been learning languages since I was a child, but this is my first time in Egypt. The scenery and history are awe-inspiring, but the traffic gives me a headache." Ha ha ha. By the time Yukai reached the other end of the highway, cold sweats had broken out on his back. He clung his thinner clothes to his back and looked back at the 2 roads. A constant stream of traffic. If you were in China, he wouldn't dare do that, it was too dangerous. The Arabs who came with Yukai looked to be around 40 years old. The man wore a red and white striped short-sleeved shirt and jeans, while the woman wore a black, long, Arab-style robe that covered her head, revealing only her face. They were all quite tanned, but overall, they looked different from the black people in South Africa. After passing the cars, they put the children on the ground and let them walk on their own, saying to Yukai, "Friend, have a pleasant journey." After bidding farewell to this incident, Yukai quickly walked along a street to Cairo's old city. This is also known as the legendary Golden City. Far from the Nile River, the air was dry and windless. Walking in such a place, one must be mindful of one's attitude. The more impatient one is, the hotter it gets. The street Yukai was walking on was only 3 or 4 meters wide, lined with shops on both sides. These shops were small, so the owners occupied a portion of the street to display their wares. This was similar to many alleys in China, where all sorts of goods were available, but the majority were handicrafts or souvenirs. There were lifelike desert wolves, Egyptian cats, miniature Egyptian stone statues, stone tablets, and so on. Occasionally, one could hear some Western-style music. Yukai followed the sound, but it wasn't street performers playing, but rather music played by the shop owners. This place looked like a pedestrian street, but in fact, cars could enter. People gave way to cars gave way to people. Sometimes, when cars could no longer move, they honked their horns. Shop owners, upon hearing this, would rush out and fold down their small shade tents to allow the cars to pass. Cairo was overcrowded. It wasn't a large city, but its population was equal to the entire population of Australia, all crammed into this overcrowded, sprawling city, leaving little room for either cars or people. On his first day, Yukai noticed a scene completely different from any city he'd visited before. Chapter 449. I'm looking for a store. If you really calculate it, the whole of Africa is probably not much different. Take the tiny place in Zambia, for example. If it weren't for its poverty, its people, and its lack of cars and people, it would probably have the same traffic situation as Cairo, or even worse. Soon, Yukai lost track of where he was. The buildings around him grew older and older. Although they were all yellow brick and mud, you could still tell how old they were. This must be Cairo's residential area. Many of the houses here hadn't yet been roofed, their exposed steel bars piercing the sky. But these weren't newly built, many of the steel bars were already rusted. He found several angles to take pictures. He passed an Egyptian man strolling by. Yukai stopped him in Arabic and asked, "Excuse me, why don't you repair the roofs of these houses?" "Repair the roofs? It's not raining heavily here, why would you repair the roofs? A clean roof signifies a new house, so impressive. And my son or grandson will continue to build when they have the money. Why rush? You're not worried, but as a foreigner in Cairo, I'm worried for you. Forget it. What's it to you whether someone's house is finished or not? It's better to ask about the location first. I'm a tourist from China. I'm looking for a restaurant called Kashmiri. Can you tell me how to get to this restaurant?" Yukai saw this restaurant on a travel app. Many Chinese travelers who have been to Cairo recommended this restaurant, but Yukai couldn't find the specific location on the map. He only knew that it was nearby. The middle-aged Egyptian man thought for a while, slapped his head and said, "Kashmiri, right? This is a special food in our country. I don't know when it was passed down, but it's been a long time. Legend has it that the pharaoh liked to eat this. It tastes sour. Many foreigners like to eat it, but I don't like it." Seeing that he was talking nonsense, Yukai hurriedly said, Hey, brother, I'm asking about a kashri store." "This store? No, there is no need to go to this store. You can eat kashri-flavored food in any restaurant. My family can make it. My wife's food is delicious. Do you know shawarma? This is my wife's specialty." Looking at the time at his watch, Yukai looked around and said, "Well, let's talk about it in detail next time we have time. I have to find this store to eat something." This guy talked about his wife and food, and then talked about Cairo from food, and then began to discuss the urban planning of Cairo with Yukai. The key point was that during his shift in topic, Yukai didn't say a word. "Oh my god, you're even scarier than the French. If I hadn't sensed any ill intentions, I would have run away long ago. Who wants to hear you talk about your wife's delicious dishes? It's not my wife's cooking." Yukai decided to flee. Since he didn't want to talk, Yukai didn't force him. But then the Egyptian put his hand on Yukai's shoulder and said with a smile, "Egypt and China are good brothers. If you have any questions, you can ask me and I will definitely tell you." Yukai thought he was drunk. Looking at his watch, he saw that the gentleman had been talking non-stop for 20 minutes. He repeatedly emphasized that he just wanted to try this restaurant and hoped he could help him find the location. Yukai knew that this kind of dish was everywhere. There were thousands of hot pot restaurants in Chengdu. How could the taste be the same? Some hot pot restaurants were not only not good, but even gave you diarrhea. This was Egypt. After the front desk lady's warning as he left the hotel, Yukai was even more hesitant to eat anything else. He only wanted to enjoy his first meal in Egypt at a restaurant that was recognized by Chinese people. The Egyptian finally realized Yukai wasn't in the mood for conversation and hesitantly said, "But I don't know where this restaurant you're talking about is. Did they translate it back home? What's the Arabic name? How could I know what it's called in Arabic?" Yukai was speechless. "So you didn't know? Why didn't you tell me earlier? I've been listening to your bragging for so long." The comments on the travel app were mostly from travelers. Yukai searched for a long time but couldn't find a single tourist who actually spoke Arabic. And even if there was one, they'd have to have an input method that could input Arabic. Never mind. Yukai gave a polite smile. "Thank you very much. Your talkativeness has taught me a lot about Cairo. I'll try the food you recommended sometime. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye." He fled the neighborhood. It was increasingly clear that this was a drunk. Yukai had once believed that French people sitting in cafes were the most chatty, but now he discovered that Cairo people walking the streets without doing anything were the most chatty. But this was just one example. Should I ask someone else? The thought flashed through his mind before Yukai dismissed it. Wasting another half hour? Was he even going to eat? Yukai had skipped his last flight meal, hoping to get off the plane for a good meal. Now, After 2 hours of walking in the scorching Cairo sun and listening to other people's boasts for half an hour, his stomach was protesting, growling. Finally, he found the restaurant. Of course, he didn't ask passers-by, but Yukai was lucky. He saw the English words koshery about Tarek on the side of the street. A low building, a small restaurant, with a sign hanging high up, 3 stories high, so it could be seen from a distance. Isn't this restaurant called koshery? What's wrong with that person? Yukai recalled what the driver had said to him. Many people in Cairo don't understand English. Could it be that the person I stopped to ask for directions is one of those who doesn't understand English? This shop is doing pretty well. When you walk into the shop, you can see that there are already quite a few people sitting at the tables inside. The staple food on the tables is the same, which is the name of this shop, koshery. This is an Egyptian delicacy, macaroni mixed with chickpeas, mung beans, and tomato sauce. Yukai also saw that some people did not have macaroni in their bowls, but vermicelli. The vermicelli was very broken, and the person was eating with a spoon, his mouth full of tomato sauce. Seeing them eating so happily, Yukai became even hungrier. Licking his lips, Yukai found an empty seat and sat down, and ordered a koshery. This was the only dish on the menu of this shop. He wanted to order a dessert but there was none. Yukai simply did not order water. He decided to find a supermarket to buy mineral water after eating. When the dish arrived, Yukai took 2 photos with his phone and posted them on Weibo, saying, "After 3 hours of searching, I finally got to eat a legendary Egyptian pasta. I'm ready to eat now." Putting his phone down, Yukai examined the dish carefully. Perhaps because he hadn't discussed it with the owner, there were no shredded vermicelli noodles. Instead, there was rice, pasta, potatoes, macaroni, and tomato sauce. It looked quite good. A spoon was used as cutlery. Yukai took a large bite, and it tasted exactly like tomato pasta. Chapter 450 The Tip of the Iceberg. Just by looking at the ingredients, you could already guess what this dish would taste like. It was quite a treat to be able to eat such excellent pasta in Egypt. It seemed Egyptian cuisine wasn't as dreadful as he'd imagined. After dinner, he returned along the same route. Back at the hotel, he showered and was in bed before 8 o'clock. Sleeping on a plane certainly wasn't as easy as sleeping in a bed, and the hotel room was comfortable. It had been ages since Yukai had stayed in a high-end hotel, and he missed it. But one night at a hotel like this was enough to rent an apartment for a month. Costs in Egypt were actually quite reasonable. After a stroll, Yukai found it was similar to those in second-tier cities in China. A good meal for one person might cost 40 to 100 Egyptian pounds, or around 20 to 50 Chinese yuan. But if you wanted something cheap, you could get by for 10 to 30 Egyptian pounds. Cairo was home to many poor people, unlike in Northern Europe, where you wouldn't even find a beggar on the streets. The excellent welfare system meant you didn't have to work, and you could live a comfortable life playing games at home. That's why Northern Europe has high costs. If Cairo's costs were the same as Europe's, too many poor people would starve to death. Yukai slept until 7 the next morning. Having slept so long, he felt exhausted when he woke up, even wanting to lie down and sleep a little longer. After washing his face and feeling a little more alert, he took the elevator to the restaurant for breakfast. The hotel was quite crowded, and many languages could be heard on the restaurant floor, but most people were polite and didn't speak loudly. There weren't any tour groups to be seen. If tour groups could stay at a hotel like this, Yukai would want to join one. Breakfast was an all-you-can-eat buffet, and Yukai was most excited to see the fruit. He grabbed a bright red apple before moving on to the other dishes. There were fried bananas, carrots, something that looked like luncheon meat, salt-baked tomatoes, and some kind of rice mixed with oil. The taste of it all was indescribable. The salt-baked tomatoes sounded like a dark dish, but compared to the others, they were a lifesaver. After finishing 2 thin slices of tomato, Yukai could only stare blankly at the food. Sighing, Yukai recorded a video for his WetChat moments. He first filmed the dishes on the table, then began to talk. "I was wrong. I thought someone who could eat stinky tofu, snail noodles, and even dared to try durian, wouldn't be afraid of any kind of food. But I was wrong. Look, this is breakfast at a 5-star hotel in Egypt." Even after recording the video, he still had to endure the hunger. He couldn't eat any of this food. It looked so good, but only after tasting it did he realize. So this is what Egyptians eat. Ugh. Finally, an Egyptian in a white robe showed Yukai a way out, recommending a flatbread called ish. It was dry and tasteless, but he finally ate it. The receptionist downstairs was right. As expected, Egyptian things. Forget it, he set off to see the pyramids. Cairo's roads are always in bad condition, but the road to the pyramids is remarkably well maintained. He spent the entire drive chatting with friends on his phone. When the car stopped, he realized the surroundings were now a sea of yellow sand, and a few camels had appeared nearby. He looked up and saw the pyramids were right in front of him. There were 3 large ones, several smaller ones, and the Sphinx, a statue with a human face and a lion's body. Everything was a pure brown yellow, with no extra color except for human clothing. Only sunlight, shining through, cast a rhythmic interplay of light and dark across this otherwise brown-yellow landscape. We disembarked, purchased our tickets, and approached the pyramids. The bricks used in the pyramids weren't the small bricks you'd use to build a house, but rather large, square bricks, stacked layer upon layer, becoming a symbol of ancient Egypt thousands, even tens of thousands of years ago. This was truly a miracle. Standing before the largest, the Pyramid of Khufu, Yikai felt a sensation no less profound than when he had seen the Great Wall. These were true miracles in human history, and miracles transcend their surroundings. At that moment, Yikai even forgot what Cairo looked like, what transportation and food were like. No matter how backward Cairo might be, the pyramids were pyramids. At first glance, they made one forget everything: Cairo, the desert, the country, the race. Time and space were all contained within these pyramids. After stepping back a few steps, an Egyptian man with a camel approached and said in English, "Hello, would you like to take photos on a camel? It's free." Yikai smiled and asked, "The photos are free, but the camel ride costs money, right?" The man's smile froze for a moment, then he nodded naturally, "Yes, the camel ride is only $5. Thank you very much, but I don't need it." Yikai certainly wanted to ride a camel, but not just for photos. After arriving in Cairo, Yikai wanted to explore the desert, where a camel ride might cost less than $5. And you could actually ride it, not just for photos. However, foreign tourist attractions are no different from those in China. As long as there's money to be made, there will be such vendors everywhere. Travelers who are a little careful, or have been scammed often enough, won't fall for such tricks. This kind of operation mainly targets Europeans and Americans. Who in China doesn't know about this trick? Honestly, the Egyptian pyramids are not as impressive as any tourist attraction in China. They're just tall, huge mounds of earth, and the Sphinx is just a simple stone carving. But why was Yikai so shocked? It was primarily because he thought about the construction of the pyramids. Archaeologists determined that the pyramids were built over 4,700 years ago. Based on simple labor calculations, the Pyramid of Khufu alone would have required 100,000 craftsmen over 30 years to build. But this was a crude approach, one that failed to consider a series of insurmountable challenges. For example, how would these massive stones be transported? How would they be lifted? How much national strength would be needed to support the expenditure of 100,000 craftsmen for 30 years? And how large a population base would be needed to support such a national strength? Just think about it. What was the total population of Egypt 5,000 years ago? What was the total population of the world? Thinking about this, the pyramids are truly mysterious. Unlike the Chinese tradition, where the meaning of hieroglyphs can be understood through the evolution of writing, ancient Egyptian writing is still not accurately understood. He could have entered the pyramids, but when the tour guide told him that everything inside had been stolen by tomb robbers, leaving only an empty burial chamber, he lost interest. Standing before the pyramids, Yikai felt not only awe but also a sense of complete mystery. Human history is a solemn and vast topic, far from being open to arbitrary interpretation. Ancient Egypt, for example, remains a subject of considerable mystery. Despite our current technological advancements, the historical research we've uncovered is still only the tip of the iceberg. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.